And why was he at your school?
He was doing bicycle safety for grade school kids.
And you remembered his name. Anything else that was significant about him that caused you to do something in your life?
He was, on that occasion, he really influenced me as a youngster that the police are good people, and I wanted to be something like that someday.
And because of that, and because of him being at your school, did you start out doing that?
Yes.
And what was your first job or volunteer work as some type of a law enforcement officer, student, explorer, school cop?
Well, the first thing I did was when junior high, was a school patrol officer, if that counts.
Yes, that does count. And what did a school patrol officer do back then?
It was junior high, so we helped the younger grade school age children get across the street.
And did you continue to do that throughout junior high?
Yes, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
And after getting into high school, what did you do?
The Fridley Police Department came to my high school and had a booth set up for the Fridley Police Explorers.
And did you join the Explorers?
Yes, I did.
Why did you join the Explorers? First of all, what is an Explorer?
It's part of the Boy Scouts of America. It's a area where you can have career enhancement, or you can learn about different jobs like law enforcement or firefighting, things of that nature.
And were you an explorer throughout your high school days?
Yes, I was.
I can't remember if I asked you what high school you went to.
Totino Grace High School in Fridley.
With respect to criminal justice or law enforcement, while you were in high school, besides being an explorer, did you do anything else?
I had jobs.
Okay, what was your job?
My first job was at a gas station.
What did you do there?
Clerk, cashier.
And did you continue that job throughout high school?
Yes, and into college.
Okay, so your next visit was college.
Yes.
Where did you go to college?
St. Mary's College in Winona, Minnesota.
And that's about, what, 70 miles from here, 80?
Yeah, it's down towards La Crosse.
Okay, it's in Winona.
Yes.
And what was your major at St. Mary's?
Criminal justice and sociology with an emphasis on elderly studies or geriatric sociology.
Why did you take those courses?
I wanted to go into law enforcement, and I had an interest in serving the older community and understanding their needs and wants.
Did you graduate from St. Mary's?
Yes, I did.
And was that a 3-year program, 4
It was a
years?
4-year program. I finished it in 3.5 because I had an internship in the summer.
And where did you internship?
The Columbia Heights Police Department.
Columbia Heights Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do at the Columbia Heights Police Department?
I was assigned to an officer who was in their community-oriented policing program.
Did you also continue your explorer career while in college?
I stopped being an explorer after my freshman year, and then I role-played at the annual conference.
What does that mean?
Every year, the Explorer program had an annual conference at Breezy Point Resort, and they needed role players, and they liked to use students or people that were in law enforcement.
So you graduated from St. Mary's,
Yes.
and what did you do after that?
After that, I would have gone to Skills in the summer of 1994.
Okay, and what do you mean by that?
I went to Skills.
What does that mean?
I went to the police certification program so I could get hired.
And where was that at?
Alexandria Technical College?
In Alexandria, Minnesota?
Correct.
So everybody knows, about 120 miles, 30 from
Yes.
here? And did you stay there while you were being educated?
Yes.
What kind of a program was that? How long was it?
It was 10 or 12 weeks.
And what do you mean, is that where you obtain your skills to apply as a police officer?
Yes, it was a hands-on training. I had the college education, the book knowledge, and then I went there for my skills program or my hands-on part from my getting my license.
After this program, did you go out and try and get a job in law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
And Were you successful at first?
Yes.
Well, did you have a job at Anoka? Anoka?
Yeah, I worked at the Anoka Metro Regional Treatment Center because I graduated in January, or I'm sorry, in December. I couldn't go to skills until the next summer, so I had to I got a job.
All right, so, but you worked skills, you were in Alexandria, correct?
Yes.
And the job you got was at Anoka State Hospital?
Yes.
No, that was between your skills? Say that again.
So
Slowly.
I got hired there in February, and I worked for a year on a calendar year. But the Anoka City Police Department would allow their students to, or their employees, I'm sorry, to go to skills and still have a job on weekends or when they would get back before they got hired as a law enforcement officer.
So, at Anoka State Hospital, what did you do?
I was a security officer.
And Anoka State Hospital is basically a detox center now, is that right?
No, it had a detox. It had a countywide detox and a detox program. It also had drug and alcohol abuse rehabilitation and mental illness.
And what did you do there? You're in security?
Yes.
Does that mean you had to deal with the folks that are staying there, the residents?
Yes.
And were you successful in that?
Yes.
After working there, where did you go next?
I left there and got hired at the City of Brooklyn Center.
In what year were you hired at the Brooklyn Center Police Department?
1995,
And when were you sworn in?
February the 27th.
Of 1995?
Correct.
Who was that you're swearing?
My mother and my father.
So after you're sworn in, you started working as a Brooklyn Center police officer?
Yes,
And what year was that again?
1995.
So that would be, my math, 26 years before you resigned? Is that a
Yes.
fair statement?
Yes.
When you worked as a police officer at Brooklyn Center throughout those 26 years, did you remain a patrol officer all during that time?
I did.
And why was that? Why didn't you attempt to go up the ladder like the other officers we heard from?
I liked my work. I enjoyed working with community. I didn't want to be in an administrative role.
But did you also, even though you were a patrol officer, you did take part in other programs, for example, the FTO program, right?
Yes, I did.
And that's the field training?
Yes, I was a field training officer for many years.
How many years?
I don't have an exact number, 10 to 15.
And we've learned in this case what a field training officer does, but very briefly, what did you do?
I would get probationers in different stages of their training, either in their first phase, their second phase, their third phase, or their final phase. Usually, the primary phase or the first phase and the final phase were always with the same FTO. And then other FTOs would train the other two stages.
And why did you continue to do that for so many years?
I felt that I had knowledge and mentorship that I could help young officers develop into somebody I would want to work with and my partners would want to work with.
There are other programs that you volunteered for or joined while
Yes.
you were a police officer, is that correct?
Yes.
And after you became a police officer, what was the first program that you joined or volunteered?
I became an Explorer advisor for our Explorer post.
And what's an Explorer post? Is that the younger people that are,
Yes, the program through the Boy Scouts of America.
and in that program you teach them about policing, is that right?
Yes.
And after that Explorers program that you joined, what else did you do as a police officer?
I was on the domestic abuse response team. I was also a crisis negotiator.
Let's stop at the domestic abuse program. How long were you on that? Approximately.
10, 12 years, maybe more, maybe less.
And what did that program entail?
We would respond, so officers would go out on domestic abuse situations or domestic calls, and if there was a victim of a crime or an arrest made or not an arrest made, we would follow up the next day with the victims to see that they were getting the things they needed, like domestic advocates, walking them through getting order for protections if they had questions, and then helping them and checking in with them through the court process.
And did you enjoy doing that?
Yes.
Why?
Sometimes there were great successes, and sometimes there were very sad failures.
There's another program that you were involved in, was a hostage program?
I was a crisis negotiator for the parent umbrella of the EOU team, the Emergency Operations Unit.
And what did you do in that?
I was a crisis negotiator.
What does that mean?
We would go out on barricaded subjects, or we would go out with the SWAT team would be the easiest way to describe it, on warrants. We would respond to calls where there may be people in danger.
And was your job to try and negotiate with the subject and get him to submit to being arrested?
Yes, he or she.
Was that your main job?
No, I was always a patrol officer.
No, I mean, as far as a hostage negotiator, that's what you did.
Yes, I was a crisis negotiator.
And what other programs were you in?
I was on the Law Enforcement Memorial Association Honor Guard.
And what is that?
So the parent is the Minnesota Law Enforcement Memorial Association. They do a lot of work to help survivors and their families make their way through the process of getting benefits after their officer is killed in the line of duty. I was on the Honor Guard.
What did you do being on the Honor Guard?
When I started in 1998, I was on the colors team for approximately a year or two, and then I went to the casket team.
Well, what's the color team?
The color team carries flags.
And the casket team?
We would carry the casket or the urn of the fallen officer and then fold their flag.
And would you be in contact also with the victim or the deceased family?
Sometimes with the family, a lot of times with the chief of police, because I would have to give the folded flag to the police chief.
And this was throughout the state of Minnesota?
Yes.
And these were police officers killed in the line of duty?
Yes.
Or other law enforcement officers?
Most 99% of it would be killed in the line of duty, or we would do some retiree funerals.
Any other programs you were involved in?
I did a lot of crime prevention work for our police department and other presentations.
Crime prevention presentations?
Yes.
What were those?
I was assigned an apartment complex in the city, and I would meet with management, and we would do some programming for their residents as far as personal safety, locking your car doors, taking valuables out of your cars, just regular safety in an apartment complex. And then I would do some other presentations on robbery prevention for banks in the city.
By the way, when you were doing the carrying caskets for that in that program, were you aware of officers that were killed in the line of duty by making a traffic stop?
Yes, Sean Patrick from Mendota Heights.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike and echo.
The objection is overruled. I'll let the answer stand.
During your 26 years as a police officer, did you ever receive any complaints for abusing your power?
No.
Did you ever receive any complaints from the public?
No.
In training, did you attend all the training sessions required by the Brooklyn Center Police Department while you were there?
Yes.
And with respect to gun training, laser training, you attended all those too, right?
Yes, I did.
And did you pay attention?
Yes, I did.
With respect to that, in your approximation, I'm not asking for exact numbers, but with respect to the training, what would you say the amount of training was for the firearm, for the gun, and the amount of training for the laser? What would be the percentages there?
For the firearms, it would be probably 80%. We spent a lot more time on firearms than we did on Taser.
And tasers didn't come into the being until years after you're a law enforcement officer, right?
Yes, I believe trainers in this courtroom had said 2002 or 2003,
And you started as a law enforcement officer, what year?
1995.
With respect to tasers, I say lasers, respect to tasers, there's been evidence in the case that you had a Taser 7, is that correct?
Yes,
And the evidence in that was that the Taser 7 was shaped like a gun, fair statement?
yes,
And the Taser 7 had a dark black, or at least a dark handle, and a dark top. Do you remember that?
Objection, leaving.
I'm trying.
The objection is overruled. You may answer.
yes.
The Taser that you received, was it approximately a month before April 11th that you received this Taser? Do you remember?
In the courtroom, I was told I received it on March the 26th.
Okay. And also, while we're there, with respect to these tasers and testing them, the rule that we read said should test the electronics every day. Is that right?
Yes,
And there is testimony that you didn't test yours a couple days. Is that right?
yes, that's what I was told.
And do you agree with that you didn't test it?
I don't recall if I would have or wouldn't have.
And was that an important feature for law enforcement officers with new tasers
No,
that never used them since they had them?
correct.
And while we're there, did you ever use use it by actually shooting it in all of your years' career as a law enforcement officer?
I would take my taser out on rare occasions, but I don't believe I ever deployed it.
Okay, when you take your taser out, it's to de-escalate what is going on. Is that a fair statement?
Sometimes, or to prepare for what might be behind a door. Sometimes an officer has a gun and sometimes an officer has a taser out.
All right. And now the taser that was switched from you, did that go to one of your partners, that taser?
My old taser,
Yes.
I believe they were just put in storage at the police department.
And those tasers were all yellow, right? The
Yeah.
handle, the top, the whole thing was yellow.
Yes, except for the battery pack, I believe that was black, and there was some
Okay.
markings on the side.
I'm going to show you these tasers. Show you this taser.
Objection, remain on the sideline, please.
Yes.
All right, everybody, peace. Today, she's giving testimony. There's going to be cross-examination. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. I decided to connect this to my first channel, The Information Man Show. I am broadcasting as well out of Your News Shorts. It's a new channel. Most of what I'm going to be doing on that channel is giving you short content where I'll go live daily, if not weekly, to give a summary of news reports. I will not be giving a full critical analysis as much as I do on my first channel. On this channel is simply to give the news, give a small analysis, make them short. My videos over there are usually 15 minutes, 17 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes like last night, where I may go live on Your News Shorts. The key to it is that I'll be giving you rapid content in that style and fashion daily, while still going live on the Information Man Show on the weekends like Sunday. At the same time, when it comes to the Information Man Speaks podcast, I'll be dropping a pre-produced video over there once a week, while at the same time bringing you this type of content. The goal of this channel is to go live with news stories like this, which will be more long form, but then most of my live streams will get right at the point of the issue, a simple alert. So if something happens, something incredible happens, and I have the time and I'm available, I will break it live on your news shorts. So this today is a special situation because we have Kim Potter, who shot, let me show you something, who shot and killed Daunte Wright. How can you not tell the difference between that, which is a gun on a weapon on the left side and a taser on the left side? How can one not realize what they're dealing with here when you look at something like this? You see right here, the different color, weight, grip, safety, display, laser, holster. How can one not understand what they're doing if they're an officer? And here she is right here, and she is on trial. Everybody in the chat rooms, in both chat rooms, thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe to your news shorts. News shorts will be a different format from what I do on my first channel. It's a small channel. It's going to grow organically. I'm going to take my time. I'm not rushing. I know exactly what I'm doing here because putting out the content the way I'm going to put out on that particular channel, it being short, is going to push through the algorithms of YouTube because the content will be in high volumes and it will be stories that are charging stories that are happening, and I can give you quick, to the point broadcast that won't take up 2 and 3 and 4 hours of your time. So let's get back and hear what's going on right now. And here we go.
Before April 11th?
It would be mentioned in training, but it wasn't something we physically trained on.
And by that you mean what?
There was no training on weapons confusion. You wouldn't be set in a dark room and told to grab which weapon.
So I'm going to go now to April 11th, 2021, a Sunday. And you surely remember that day. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were an FTO that day for Officer Lucky?
Yes, I was.
And that day, what time did you go on duty?
6 a.m.
And was Lucky on duty at that time too?
Yes.
At about, what did you do during the morning? If you remember, did you just do drive around police work?
We just did police work. We would have checked a squad car if we wouldn't have had calls right away.
It was a Sunday.
It was a Sunday.
So approximately around 2 o'clock, did you pull up in back of, or not you, Officer Lucky was driving the car, right, the squad?
Yes,
And you were the FTO. Where were you seated in the car?
in the passenger seat.
And tell the jury what you remember about first seeing the white Buick on that day, approximately 2 p.m. And
I
talk
was-
slowly.
Officer Lucky and I were driving south on Zane Avenue North. We were talking about pursuit policies, doing some regular FTO training, and he observed a vehicle in the turn lane with a blinker on inappropriately.
And was that the white Buick?
Yes,
And did you have a conversation with him about that?
yes.
And what was that conversation?
We discussed a little bit of suspicious activity. He noticed a pine tree or air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror, and the tabs were expired.
And did you stop that vehicle?
Officer Lucky wanted to stop the vehicle, yes.
And let me ask you sort of a hypothetical. If you had been working alone that day on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock, would you have stopped the vehicle for?
Objection, relevance, false speculation.
I can't even finish the question, Your Honor.
All right.
That's not fair.
The
It's
obj-
simply, they know how to try a lawsuit, I would
Okay.
think.
The objection is overruled. You may answer.
My question was, if you weren't with a field training officer that day and you were on patrol alone, would you have stopped that vehicle?
Most likely not.
And why not?
An air freshener to me is it's just an equipment violation. And during the COVID times, the high COVID times, the Department of Motor Vehicles was so offline that people weren't getting tabs, and we were advised not to try to enforce a lot of those things because the tabs were just not in circulation.
Okay, but you did stop the vehicle, right?
Yes, part of field training is that my probationer would make numerous contacts with the public throughout the day.
And what happened after the stop? Or if you remember, go ahead.
Before Officer Lucky stopped the car, he ran the vehicle, confirmed that the registration was expired and that the registered owner had a petty misdemeanor type warrant for some type of drug offense.
And that was the registered owner of the vehicle.
Yes,
So after you did that while you were still in the squad car and not,
yes, it's part of the multitasking that a probationer will have to do is run a vehicle license plate, call into dispatch, and initiate their lights.
okay, try and talk a little slower. I know you're probably nervous, but I'd like to get all this in. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you stopped the vehicle, is that right?
Officer Lucky initiates the traffic stop.
And what happened after he did that?
The vehicle stopped kind of in an entrance to the church on 63rd, and he got on the PA and told the vehicle to pull ahead just a short distance.
Was that because he was parked in the driveway of the,
Yeah, and I think there was a vehicle trying to come out, as I recall.
okay. What happened next?
Officer Lucky and I exited our marked squad car. Officer Lucky walked up to the driver's door, and I stood at the right rear corner of the white Buick.
So you did get out of the car.
Most definitely.
And why did you stand where you were standing?
Part of it was so I could see where Officer Lucky was, and to provide cover to see what else was in the vehicle.
In your experience of 26 years and being a patrol officer all those years, is stopping any vehicle at any time that you don't know, does that be considered a dangerous situation?
Yes.
Why?
Sometimes there's guns in the car, sometimes there's uncooperative people. You don't know who you're stopping.
Yeah, that's because you don't know, right?
Right.
So while you were standing there in the rear of the vehicle, did you hear what Officer Lucky said?
I could hear parts of the conversation. He didn't seem to be in any distress when he was asking questions. He took out his notepad, and it looked like he was writing down something which would end up being a name and date of birth.
Okay, and after he did that, did you two go back to the squad car?
Yes.
And at some point in time during the stop or right after it, did Officer Lucky do anything in connection with obtaining another squad car?
Yes, he called for a second car to come.
What is that about? What?
It would just be a backup officer. The registered owner had a warrant of some nature. It wasn't a bad warrant. It was just a regular petty warrant, which would still, you'd want a second officer. Or I guess in this case, a third officer. Officer Lucky and I are considered only one officer
And why are you and Lucky just one officer?
because he's in field training and he's a probationary employee.
All right. So did the third officer, Officer Johnson, arrive at some point in time?
Yes, Sergeant Johnson arrived.
And was that before you looked up in the computer about this driver of the vehicle, or after?
I don't know exactly when he arrived. I know Officer Lucky and I were Officer Lucky and I were discussing running the name he was given through some various systems.
Okay, and did you do that, you and Officer Lucky?
Yes.
Was there any correction that you told him about during this time that he shouldn't have put the name in one?
He had gone to the Minnesota, because the driver didn't provide him with any government-issued ID, he would have had to verify some information to run him properly in our system through TriTech. So you run them sometimes through Minnesota DVS with just a name and a date of birth. It'll give you a Soundex hit on various people with that either same name or common name with a date of birth.
So did you correct him on that?
We were talking about, I don't know if I corrected him on it, but
So what happened after that? Did you-
he would copy the OLN, which is a driver's license number, off the screen and then put it into our TriTech system or CAD, and that would run him through the state for driver's license and warrants and other hits.
And did you find anything about the driver?
The driver came back with a suspended driver's license, a gross misdemeanor, bench warrant for weapons, and a protection order.
So a gross misdemeanor for weapons ordinance, what went through your mind, if anything, when you read that?
It would be concerning that there'd be a weapon on the person or in the vehicle.
And why would that be?
In my experience over 26 years, I have found guns in cars, either by accident or by them just being sitting out in plain view.
And what about a person with a weapons warrant? Would that-
They're more likely to be carrying a weapon or have a weapon access to them.
So, what about the temporary, was it a temporary restraining order that came up? Was that it? Or-
Yeah, I think they're called ex parte orders. It would be a temporary protection order until the parties would either have a court hearing in front of a judge to make it a permanent order.
And there would be a name of a female on that?
Yes,
Or-
there was.
And was there a female in the Buick or in the automobile that was stopped?
Yeah, in the front, yes, in the front passenger seat.
So after you learned that, did you also learn something, did Officer Lucky tell you something about drugs or marijuana?
When he initially got back to the car, he told me there was a obvious smell of marijuana and some seedlings or shake residue on the center console and inside the vehicle.
Okay. So with all of that information, what did you do next?
Officer Lucky explained to Sergeant Johnson what was going on. I corrected.
Where was Sergeant Johnson? Was he in your squad car?
He was standing at my passenger door.
Go ahead.
And Officer Lucky was explaining to Sergeant Johnson what was happening and what he wanted to do. Officer Lucky only told Sergeant Johnson that he had a warrant, and I told Officer Lucky that he needed to tell Sergeant Johnson what the warrant was for. A weapons violation warrant would be cause for care and concern.
All right. And after that conversation, what happened, if anything, next?
We got out of the vehicle. Sergeant Johnson was going to the passenger side. And
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you. Back up a little, I'm getting ahead of me. What was the plan when you got out of your vehicle with Lucky and Johnson was outside? What was your plan?
The plan was for Officer Lucky to get the driver into custody for the warrant, and we'd further investigate with the female who she was and if she was the petitioner or the subject of the restraining order.
Were you required by policy and law in learning about that warrant to arrest the driver of that car?
Yes, it was an order of the court.
And with respect to the restraining order, or whatever you called it, did proper police procedure that you knew of for 26 years required to find out who that lady was?
Yes,
And why would that be?
it's my duty to find out who she is to make sure she's not in harm's way. There's been times when that hasn't happened and somebody has ended up killed because that wasn't followed.
So now we're at the Buick, it's a Buick car, white car, is that
It's a
right?
white car.
And now we're at the white car, and you three went up to it, correct?
Yes, Sergeant Johnson went
Where,
up to the
where did
passenger
Johnson
side.
go?
He went up the passenger side to provide cover.
And what does provide cover mean? Is
Keep an eye on the occupants of the vehicle, and just to monitor what's happening outside in the world. See if
And-
people are walking up on you or things go wrong.
And where were you located?
I was towards the left rear corner of the car.
And where was Officer Lucky?
He was advancing to the driver's door.
And how, by the way, before this, how long had you known Officer Lucky?
I think we were on our fifth shift.
And he was pretty new arrival, was he? Or,
I believe he was in second phase maybe, but he had been a police officer before.
okay, what does second phase mean?
He wasn't in his initial 4 weeks, he was in the start of his second 4 weeks.
And you testified, you knew at least back then, that he had come from another police department, correct?
Yes, I think he worked at 2 previous agencies and he was an explorer.
Okay. Now let's go back to when you three arrived at the white car. We've already said where you're located. Officer Lucky was at the driver's door, is that right?
Yes, he would have been standing behind the post between the driver's door and the rear passenger door.
What do you mean by that, standing behind the post?
He wouldn't have been directly in front of the door because that would be unsafe approach.
And this was this a warm day? Was the window down? Remember?
I don't know if the window was down or not.
Okay. But in any event, where were you standing again?
At the left rear corner.
And did you hear what Officer Lucky said?
Yes,
to-
I heard him ask the driver to step out of the vehicle a couple of times.
And did the driver step out of the vehicle finally?
Finally, he asked Officer Lucky a couple of times what was going on, and Officer Lucky said he would explain to him.
When he got out of the car?
Yes,
And so did the driver get out of the car?
yes.
And what do you remember happening next?
Officer Lucky had him turn around, and I think he was still asking what was going on. Sergeant John,
Who's he?
the driver,
Go ahead.
and Sergeant Johnson and Lucky told him he was under arrest, and I told him he had a warrant.
Okay, so who said he was under arrest first?
Sergeant Johnson, I believe.
And Sergeant Johnson testified here. You remember that?
Yes.
And after he said that, did Officer Lucky say he's under arrest too?
Yes.
And you heard that?
Yes.
And what did you say then?
I told him he had a I told him he had a warrant.
You just said warrant.
I think so.
Did you specify what kind of warrant, if you remember? If you don't,
I don't think I would have. It wouldn't have been in my normal.
okay. So, what happened after Johnson and Lucky said you're going to be handcuffed or you're under arrest, and you said that there was a warrant? What happened next?
Officer Lucky had him put his hands behind his back, and I noticed that in the driver's right hand was something. It was paper or something, and I took it out of his hand and had it in my left hand.
And you had that in your left hand?
Yes.
And then what happened next? Might strike that. When you did that, I take it you got closer to the driver?
Yes. I reached into the driver's hand and took out what he had in his right hand. And had it in
Right
my-
hand or left hand?
His right hand, and I held it in my left hand.
Okay. And what happened next?
Officer Lucky started to say something about, don't do that, don't tense up, stop doing that. And then it just went chaotic.
What do you remember happening after that?
I remember a struggle with Officer Lucky and the driver at the door. The driver was trying to get back into the car.
Well, he was trying to get back in the car. What did you do?
I went around Officer Lucky as they're trying to get back in the door. I'm between the door and Officer Lucky and the driver. And the driver's getting into the car.
And what happened next?
They're still struggling, and I can see Sergeant Johnson and the driver struggling over the gear shift because I can see Johnson's hand, and then I can see his face.
And you knew Johnson for many years before this, is that right?
Yes.
And by looking at his face at that point in time, what did you interpret it to mean?
He had a look of fear on his face. It's nothing I've seen before.
Did you say anything when you saw this? What did you do?
We were struggling. We were trying to keep him from driving away. It just went chaotic. And then I remember yelling, "Taser, taser, taser," and nothing happened. And then he told me I shot him.
Can you proceed, or do you?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. After the driver said you shot him, do you remember what you said, or do you, if you don't remember, did you look at the video and see what you said? Or do you actually remember what you said, I guess is my question, not with help from a video?
I don't remember what I said.
And what do you remember next, if anything?
They had an ambulance for me, and I don't know why. And then I was at the station. I don't remember a lot of things afterwards.
Do you remember saying something about prison?
No,
If you did say that, do you have any idea now why you would say that?
no,
Was the climate back then about police officers a little rough?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained.
All right. You don't remember saying it,
no,
and you don't know why you said it.
no.
Do you remember the response that our Sergeant Johnson or Major Johnson gave you?
No,
And when next do you remember what happened, if anything, if you remember?
I remember getting an ambulance, and then I was at the station.
Okay. And you remember being in the ambulance, arriving at the station?
No,
You don't remember the
No.
station?
I remember getting to the station.
Once you got to the station, do you remember what happened next?
The next thing I remember is Officer Fricky was in the room with me
And where were you located? Do you remember that?
in the front office.
Okay. In the front office room, do you remember, were you sitting down, standing up?
I was on the floor.
And after that, at some point in time, did your husband show up?
Yes.
At what time do you believe, from back there, April 11th, at what time do you believe that your memory came back to you?
Probably when my husband got there. So much of it is missing.
After that night, and for the last few months, have you been in therapy?
Yes.
And did you still work as a police officer there?
No,
Did you quit?
I did.
And this was your career?
Yes.
And when did you quit?
A day or two after the incident.
And why did you quit?
There was so much bad things happening. I didn't want my coworkers, and then I didn't want anything bad to happen to the city.
And did you own a home in Anoka or Hennepin County at the time?
Yes.
You and your husband?
Excuse me,
The objection is relevant.
the objection is overruled.
Did you own a home, your family home, for years past?
Yes.
And did you sell it?
Eventually.
Before you sold it, did you move out of the state?
Yes.
And you now live out of state?
Yes.
We have a moment, Your Honor.
Cross.
Good morning, Ms. Potter.
Good morning.
You've been a police officer, or were a police officer for 26 years. Isn't that
Yes.
right? You said you started in 1995,
Yes.
and that was with the Brooklyn Center Police Department for that entire career, right?
Yes.
And you said that you resigned from the Brooklyn Center Police Department, right?
Yes.
And that was on April 12th of this year, right?
Yeah, within a day or two of the incident.
Right after you had shot and killed Daunte Wright.
Yes.
And throughout that time period, you were a licensed peace officer, right?
Yes.
And to become licensed, you had to go through a number of requirements. Fair?
Yes.
You had a college degree.
Excuse me, Your Honor, the prosecutor speaking to that mic too.
Sure.
Thank you.
You have a college degree, right?
Yes.
And you also had to complete the peace officer education program, that skills component that you talked about.
Yes.
And that included skill sets and classroom training as well.
Yes.
You had to pass an exam to become an officer.
Yes.
And then you did all that before you started with the Brooklyn Center Police Department in 95, right?
Yes.
And then you got your license through the post board, correct?
Yes.
And that stands for Peace Officer Standards and Training.
Yes.
So you were licensed throughout that whole 26-year career, right?
Yes.
And you maintained all of the requirements to keep your license,
Yes.
including all the training that was required for it as well, right?
Yes.
And that training that's required for your license has all different kinds of components, true?
Yes.
You have things like use of force, use of firearms, tasers, all kinds of things.
Yes.
And you did all that training.
Yes.
And you did all that every year throughout that 26-year period, right?
Yes.
Sometimes multiple times a year, right?
Yes.
And all of those requirements were in place to make sure that you were at the beginning of your career and continued to be, competent and capable of performing the requirements of the job, right?
Yes.
You mentioned on direct that you were also a hostage negotiator as part of your duties, right?
Crisis negotiator.
Crisis negotiator. Did that involve some hostage type situations?
I've never had a hostage situation.
Okay, but crisis negotiation.
Yes.
And that involved some de-escalation tactics, I presume, correct?
Yes.
And you had to develop that skill set and be pretty good at de-escalating situations as a crisis negotiator, fair?
Yes.
So you had some experience in stressful situations doing that.
No.
So you were a crisis negotiator but never experienced a stressful situation?
We talk to people.
Talk to people in crisis.
Yes.
And part of your job as a police officer is dealing with people on their worst days, right?
Yes.
People who don't want to cooperate with you sometimes, right?
Most of the people we talk to in crisis are either barricaded behind a door or talking to you from another room.
Okay. For 26 years, you were a patrol officer, right?
Yes.
So you saw people out on the street every day as part of your job duties. Fair?
Yes.
And you talked about doing a lot of traffic stops during that career, correct?
I did some traffic stops.
Okay. Well, in some of those cases, there are people who have weapons, right?
Yes.
Sometimes people want to flee, right?
Yes.
Sometimes people are violent.
Yes.
And all of that's part of being a police officer, dealing with people in those situations, right?
Yes.
You'd agree that you're bound by policy and the requirements of the job that Brooklyn Center, the police department, sets for you, right?
Yes.
And you heard Commander Fleslin testify, but you had to acknowledge those policies and essentially agree to abide by them every year you were an officer, fair?
Yes.
And you'd agree that your fundamental duty as a police officer is to safeguard life, right?
Yes.
And you also have the duty to never employ unnecessary force. True?
Yes.
Part of the policy also includes some of your responsibilities as an officer, right?
Yes.
And that includes being alert and attentive and capable of performing your job, right?
Yes.
And getting back to the training and sort of the post requirements, there's a lot of training that goes into being a police officer, fair?
Yes.
And we talked about a couple of those things, but one of those subjects is use of force, right?
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And use of force can include things like restraints, handcuffs, defensive tactics, chemical irritants using batons, tasers, less lethal weapons, and firearms as well, right? All those things are options available to you. True?
Not all of them.
Okay, well, you carry a whole number of things on your duty belt every day, right?
Yes.
And that includes a firearm and a taser, right?
Yes.
And you also had other items on that duty belt as well, correct?
Yes.
And as part of the training that you went through every year, they cover topics, all kinds of uses of force, right?
Yes.
Including the things on your duty belt and maybe other options that the department could use additionally, true?
Only the things I was assigned on my duty belt.
Okay. But in any case, that use of force training was a pretty key component of being an officer, right?
Yes.
You were trained about when you could use force, how much force to use, and what would be appropriate force. Fair?
Fair.
And not only were you trained on that, but you had a lot of policy that that dictated what you could and could not do in a particular situation, right?
Yes.
And you were also trained on the readiness aspects of use of force, right? Being ready to engage whatever force might be required, right?
Yes.
Including making decisions under stress, right?
What do you mean?
Well, you had a lot of scenario-based training, right?
Yes.
And in those situations, those scenarios were set up to be as close as they could be to real life, right?
I suppose.
So you would be trained to have to make decisions in the moment about what to do and what force to use, right?
Well, it was a training situation, so it was usually slow and meticulous and controlled.
Well, you did this year after year, right, for the entirety of your career, correct?
I think scenario-based training started later, probably the last 10 or 15 years.
Sure, but use of force training has been around for a long time, right?
Yes.
Because since you started as a police officer, you have, in some cases, had to use force, true?
Yes.
And there are limitations on how and when to use that force, right?
Yes.
So you've had training on that throughout your entire career, right?
Yes.
And as part of that process, the way that it's required for you to maintain your license is that you sign in and you sign off on attendance forms, and you basically, you have to be there, right? You can't not be there, right?
Right.
And every year you have a certain number of training hours that are required, right?
Yes.
And you said on direct that you participated and you were paying attention during all those trainings, true?
Yes.
And some of those trainings had classroom instruction, PowerPoints, things like that, right?
Yes.
Some of them also included reviewing policies and other documents, right?
Yes.
And then there was also the hands-on training with the practical components, things like using drawing weapons, things like that, right?
Yes.
And over the course of your career, you completed many, many, many hours of training, right?
Yes.
And in terms of credit hours, we're talking somewhere in the ballpark of 1,700 credit hours. Does that sound right?
I don't know the number of hours, but if that's what you have, that would be probably right.
No reason to dispute that your training hours would have been in the thousands of hours over that 26-year career, right?
Yes.
You indicated that there weren't tasers available when you first started at Brooklyn Center. True?
No, they came in the early 2000s.
Okay. But in 1996, you had a firearm, right?
In 1995, yes.
Sorry, 95, and then you were sworn in 96, right?
No, I was sworn in February 27, 1995.
Okay. So in 95, when you first started, you had a firearm available to you.
Yes,
And you were trained to use that firearm.
yes,
Trained how to handle it, right?
yes,
Trained how to load it and unload it.
yes,
Trained how to draw it,
yes,
right? And fire it. And how to safely handle it, yes?
yes,
And that included when not to fire it, right?
I suppose.
And that training started at the beginning of your career, you said in 95, but continued every year up until the time you resigned, right?
Yes,
Now, you indicated that tasers came later, but you were first trained on using a taser in 2002, correct?
if that's what the documents say, I'm not sure when they came out.
And if the documents say you were trained in 2002, you then would have been trained every year thereafter, right?
Yes,
And you started carrying a taser on your duty belt regularly as of 2005, right?
yes,
But at a minimum, in addition to all the other training you had, you would have had taser training year after year for at least the last 19 years, right?
yes,
And the taser training that's required, you saw the documents that were in court, also requires not only it requires review of policy, right? The taser policy, right?
yes,
And it also requires practicing those reaction side draws, correct?
sometimes.
All right, if we could put up Exhibit 334, please, the last page. I'm going to put on the screen what's already been admitted as Exhibit 334. And we're going to scroll down to the very last page and highlight the subsection C, please. So, as part of the taser policy includes that all training should include performing reaction hand draws or cross draws to reduce the possibility of accidentally drawing and firing a firearm. That's part of the policy, right?
That's what it says.
And that's part of what you're trained to do, correct?
We didn't always draw we aren't always drawing our tasers from our holsters. A lot of times we were in plain clothes during training.
Okay. Well, your policy that you're required to abide by, that you signed off on, requires that you perform reaction hand draws, true?
During the training, yes.
It also includes the reason for that, right?
Yes,
And that's so that you reduce the possibility of accidentally drawing and firing a firearm, right?
yes,
And we can take that down. Part of the reason for that is weapons confusion, right?
yes,
And that was known in the field and has been known for a number of years. True?
I guess.
Well, you were trained on it, right?
We talked about it.
It was part of your PowerPoints, correct?
Yes,
You were made aware during PowerPoint after PowerPoint after PowerPoint that drawing and firing the wrong weapon can happen, right?
we were told it wasn't something that they expounded on.
You were told that.
Yes,
And you signed documentation every year you were certified acknowledging that you knew the risks, received and reviewed the materials required for you to carry that taser, correct?
yes, I signed the document.
Okay. Now, in terms of the carrying of these weapons, reaction side means what for you?
That'd be my left hand.
Okay, you're right-handed,
Yes,
so carrying a taser, you have done for years on your left side, correct?
yes,
And your firearm you carry where?
on my right side.
How many years have you carried your firearm and your taser that way?
My firearm for 26 years, and my taser, according to your documents, for 19.
So as long as you've had that taser, you've carried it on your left side, correct?
In the beginning, I carried it on my right side in a drop holster.
And when did you switch?
When we were given new holsters,
And when would that have been?
I don't know.
Okay. But far before 2016, you saw the images that were up in court. Long before that, you were carrying your taser on your left side, correct?
Yes,
Years and years, right?
yes.
We talked a little bit about reality or scenario-based training. When you go through those trainings, you have available to you all the options that would be on your duty belt, right? Although inert for the purposes of training, right?
Yes,
And the purpose of that training is to try to recreate real-life stressful situations as best as possible to practice making those types of decisions in the moment. Fair?
fair.
Let's talk a little bit about your taser. You'd agree that the Taser 7 that you have and the Taser you had before that has a safety mechanism on the side of it, right?
Yes,
And you have to flip it up to arm the Taser.
yes,
And when the Taser is on and armed, it beeps, right?
I don't know if it beeps.
There's a display screen that turns on.
Yes,
And then there are two lasers with the Taser 7 that appear on your target, right?
yes,
A green one for the top probe, right?
I believe so. It was a new taser.
And a red one for the bottom.
I would guess so, yes.
Well, you were trained on it, right?
Yes, but it was a while back.
Well, you were
Been a while.
trained in March of this year on that Taser, correct?
Yes,
And you have to successfully operate and handle that Taser in order to be certified to use it, correct?
yes,
And you went through that hands-on process of turning on that Taser and safely handling that Taser in order to be certified, correct?
yes, in March.
In March. And before that, you had had an X26P, correct?
Yes,
And that Taser also had a laser and a safety and things like that, right?
yes,
The screen that turned on.
yes,
And the Taser, and that was the Taser that you had been carrying for years before, right?
yes.
Very similar to the Taser 7 in that way.
Similar but different.
All right, so I'm going to put on the screen next to each other, please, Exhibits 210 and Exhibit 212. Now, this is a picture, side-by-side pictures of you on April 11th, correct?
Yes,
And your taser is pictured on the left side of your duty belt, correct?
yes,
And that's the way you'd been carrying it for years and years, correct?
yes,
And your firearm you carried on the right side of your duty belt, right?
yes,
And you'd agree that the standard procedure for a reaction side, left-hand draw for your taser in this case, would be to draw that weapon with your left hand, correct?
yes.
All right, you can take that down. You were asked some questions on direct about spark testing, the function test of the taser. The policy says that you should do that before the beginning of every shift, right?
Yes,
And you didn't do it the last 2 shifts that you worked, correct?
that's what the documents say.
Right. You didn't do one for the last 4 of your last 10 shifts that you worked, in fact, correct? If that's what the documents say.
Which dates?
You didn't do it on March 27th, correct?
I guess.
You didn't do it on March 28th.
Your Honor, I object to this cross-examination if she doesn't know. She should
All
have-
right,
she should have-
okay, one-word objections, please. If she doesn't know, she can say she doesn't know.
If the documents show that you didn't do a spark test 4 of your last 10 shifts, you have no reason to dispute that, right?
No.
And the day of this incident on April 11th, you didn't do a spark test that day, right?
No, according to the documents.
And even though, yeah, that day was a slow and uneventful day at the beginning of the day, right?
I don't know, I don't have a log.
Well, you told Dr. Miller that that day started as a slow and uneventful Sunday, right?
I don't know if I did or not.
Council sidebar. Okay, you may continue.
All right, so April 11th started as a slow and uneventful day, right?
I guess, it's a Sunday.
Okay. I'm going to put on the screen exhibits 224 and exhibit 178 next to each other, please. All right, Ms. Potter, on the screen are exhibits 224 and 178. You'd agree that these are photos of your taser and your firearm respectively, yes?
My firearm for sure, I'm not sure if that's the taser that was taken that day, but I'm guessing it is.
And you carried a taser 7 that day, correct?
Yes,
And that's what's in this picture, exhibit 224.
yes.
Now these items look different, don't they?
Yes.
Your Honor's argument.
The objection is overruled. I think you did you answer? You may answer if you didn't.
Yes,
And just to be more specific, the taser is yellow, right?
yes,
The firearm is black, correct?
yes.
The taser weighs about half as much as your loaded Glock, right?
I don't know.
Doesn't weigh the same, correct?
That's what they testified to earlier, but I don't know.
When it comes to the Taser 7 that you had just been recertified on or certified to use, your department used long-range cartridges for that Taser 7, correct?
I don't know.
You were trained to use it, correct?
I don't know now. I don't remember.
You don't remember being trained to use the Taser 7 at all?
No, I remember being trained, but I don't remember today what cartridges we were issued.
Okay. So you went out on the street with a taser, not knowing what that taser did?
I would assume that on the day I worked, I would know, but I don't know. It's been months now.
Okay. No reason to dispute that the Brooklyn Center Police Department used long-range cartridges in the Taser 7, correct?
No,
And the reason to do that would be so that you could fire at a farther distance with your taser, and you wouldn't need to approach someone up close, correct?
I would I don't know. I would assume so, but I'm not positive.
Well, that's why someone would use a long-range cartridge as opposed to a short-range cartridge, correct?
Yes,
And you've been trained on tasers since 2002, correct?
yes,
You know how they work, right? And you know
Yes.
what they do. Could we take those down, please, and put up Exhibit 214? Okay, Exhibit 214 that's been admitted is on the screen. Is this a picture of your duty belt?
yes,
You'd agree that the holsters for your taser and your firearm are different, correct?
yes,
And your firearm holster is empty in this picture, right? There's no firearm in it.
correct,
Is that this right here?
yes,
The taser holster is made of plastic, right?
yes,
You have to push a button, this button right here, and rock it back to get it out of the holster, correct?
yes,
And your gun holster is made of leather, is that right?
yes,
And it has a little snap, is that right?
yeah, yes.
And how does that gun come out of that holster?
It would rock forward.
How do you pull it with your hand out of your holster?
It would rock forward and you would pull it up.
Okay. And the taser, on the other hand, you would depress the button, rock it backward, and pull it out, correct?
Yes,
All right, if we could take that down, thank you. Now, you testified that you have never deployed your taser or your firearm while on duty out on the street, correct?
not that I recall. I know for sure my firearm.
Okay. But you have drawn your taser multiple times while on duty, correct?
Several times.
And you said that you did that as a way to de-escalate. I believe that was your testimony on direct.
Yes.
And approximately how many times did you pull your taser but not deploy it while on duty?
For de-escalation, maybe a few times.
Now, there are a couple times that you pulled your taser and didn't deploy it. One was in 2013, correct? No reason to dispute that it happened once in 2013 at least.
I would guess no reason.
There was a situation where one of
Okay, everybody, how you doing, everybody out there? Thank you for being here, listening. I'm going to continue the feed. I just wanted to say hello. I know that there's people coming in the chat room. Although I have not been able to call everybody out, I just want to say thank you for those of you that have come over. I cut my feed off on the third channel, the Your News Shorts. So that feed is over. It seems like more people are gathering over here. Obviously, this is the bigger channel. So we're going to continue hearing the rest of the testimony. I just want to thank everybody for coming over and watching so far. I really thank you for doing that. So what I need to do on this particular channel, as I normally would do, I got to give everybody a clap for coming over and listening. So we're going to get right back to the feed right now.
handcuffs, and then one of the officers took her down to the ground by force, correct? And you pointed your taser but didn't deploy it, right?
If that's what the documents say. I don't recall the incident.
Okay. But you recall that you have drawn your taser and not fired it in your 26-year career.
Yes.
All right, I'd like to talk a little bit more about April 11th. So on April 11th, you were serving as an FTO, right?
Yes.
And you said that you have done that for 10 or 15 years.
For many years. I don't remember when I got certified, but it's been many, many years.
Okay. And you said that on direct, I believe your testimony was that you had knowledge to impart and that mentorship skills that made you suited for that job, right?
Yes.
So you were serving as Officer Lucky's FTO on April 11th, how long had you been his FTO?
I believe it would be 5 shifts. It would have started the Monday after Easter Sunday.
Okay. But you were essentially in a supervisory position, right? Serving as his FTO?
Yes, I guided him.
It's a big responsibility, true?
Yes,
You have to be a good example, sort of set the stage for what a good police officer should do in any particular situation, right?
yes,
And to do the job of an FTO, you have to be really familiar with policy and training and proper uses of force, right?
yes,
And you have to make sure that someone else is doing it all right too, right?
correct.
And you testified that that morning, the morning of April 11th, you reviewed pursuit policy with Officer Lucky, correct?
That afternoon,
Okay. But that pursuit policy includes not shooting at the driver or occupants of a vehicle, right?
a moving vehicle.
And you told Officer Lucky, we're not in the city, right? Did you tell Dr. Miller that you told Officer Lucky in reviewing pursuit policy, you used the phrase, we're not in the city?
Because we're on Zane Avenue, which is
Misplacement, perhaps. You saw the wrong turn signal. That was the first thing that you saw?
Officer Lucky saw it first.
Okay, so you didn't see the wrong turn signal. But after that, you saw the air freshener, right?
I saw the expired registration.
Well, you had said on direct that you would not have pulled that vehicle over, right?
Probably not.
And you said that you knew that there had been some delays because of COVID with people getting their tabs up to date, right?
Yes,
But you also mentioned the air freshener to counsel on direct, didn't you?
yes,
But regardless, expired tabs, air freshener, this is the kind of traffic stop that it's pretty routine for you in your 26 years as a cop, right?
no traffic stops routine, but it would have been something I would have done several times.
I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of cars with air fresheners and expired tabs. True?
Yes,
And then the decision was made to pull over the car. You mentioned that there was some information that maybe there was some other warrant that you learned about around that time. You didn't discuss any of that with Officer Lucky, did you?
he would have had the same warrant hit that I would have heard.
None of that was mentioned. None of it was even worth discussing with Officer Lucky at the time you pulled over the car. Fair?
I don't remember if we talked about it or not.
Okay. But in any case, you pull over the car, and Officer Lucky approaches the driver's side, approaches Mr. Wright, right?
Yes,
And he came back to the car with a name, date of birth, all kinds of information, right?
I know a name and a date of birth.
Well, Officer Lucky told you that he believed him. He thought that essentially that Mr. Wright was telling the truth, right?
Yes,
And then when Officer Lucky put in all this information into the system, you corrected him, you admonished him, you told him he was doing it wrong, right?
I told him better ways to do it, probably.
And that's your job as an FTO, right?
Yes,
To correct him if he messes something up, right?
yes, when there was an opportunity.
So you corrected him, and then he re-entered the information, and then you found out about the warrant, right?
Yes,
Now, there was also a conversation about Officer Lucky code 4ing himself, right?
Doing what?
Code 4ing
Oh,
himself.
code foreign, yes.
And did you also correct Officer Lucky for doing that?
He did it before he ran the driver, and he shouldn't do that.
And you told him that, right?
Yes,
Don't code 4 yourself before you have all the information. Something to that effect, right?
yes,
And again, that was your job as the FTO to correct whatever he was doing that was wrong, right?
yes.
So you got this information and then made this decision to go arrest Mr. Wright, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't talk about going out there with guns drawn or anything like that. You didn't talk about using force on the approach or anything like that, right?
No,
And then Officer Lucky pulled or asked Mr. Wright to get out of the car, which he did, right?
yes,
And you stood back and watched this happen, correct?
I was just a couple feet away.
Okay. But you didn't correct the way that had happened. You didn't tell Officer Lucky to move or to put Mr. Wright somewhere else, right?
I wouldn't do that to a rookie in front of a suspect.
Okay. But you didn't do it regardless. Didn't happen.
No,
And then as you approached and got closer, was there a moment that you got closer after things didn't quite go the way you had hoped they would go?
I got closer before that happened.
Okay. And you'd agree that you unsnapped your gun holster as you approached, right?
No, I wouldn't agree to that.
All right, if we could put on the screen Exhibit 12, just the still image at 2:01:20, please. And zoomed in on, yes, the squad car view. You see yourself in that picture,
Yes,
and you see your right hand on the right side of your duty belt.
yes.
And it's your right hand on your firearm here.
It's blurry, but it's possible.
Okay. We can take that down, thank you. All right, so as you approached, and Mr. Wright got out of the car, was there a moment where it appeared that Mr. Wright was going to flee or attempt to flee?
When he started struggling with Officer Lucky.
Okay. And ultimately, was Mr. Wright able to get back in the car?
Yes,
You never saw a weapon on Mr. Wright, did you?
no,
Never saw a gun.
no,
He never threw a punch, right?
no,
Never kicked anyone.
no,
Never said, I'm going to kill you.
no,
Never said, I'm going to shoot you.
no,
Never said, there's a gun in the car and I'm coming after you.
no.
Okay. It's not uncommon in your experience to find someone who has a warrant during a traffic stop, right?
It's not uncommon.
And you've done hundreds of traffic stops in your career, correct?
I don't know if hundreds, but yes, I've done plenty of traffic stops.
And gross misdemeanor offenses are not the same as felony offenses. Fair?
Correct, they're different order by the judge for the
Less
crime.
serious crimes, correct?
All crimes are serious, but yes.
Well, in terms of the laws of the state of Minnesota that you're duty bound to enforce, a gross misdemeanor is a lesser offense than a felony, correct?
Yes,
And you don't get to shoot someone because they have a gross misdemeanor warrant, correct?
not for,
Correct, Your Honor. It depends on the circumstances.
Okay, but the objection is sustained.
As he should.
will disregard that question.
You also testified.
Okay, everybody, what's going on? I think my mic was off a few times, so I have to say excuse me there. Let me say peace to everybody in the chat room. I thank you for being here. I'm going to get back to the rest of that feed. I want to say peace to Queen Thrones is in the house. Let me see who else we got in here. I want to say thank you for coming over. Give you all a good clap right there, like so. And give me a minute right here, getting things together right here. Like we're supposed to be. Let's see. We got back to the basics in the house. Life Magical Journey is in the house. What's going on, sister? We got Von 11, Be the Difference Clothing, DOD, Queen Thrones is in the house, as I said before. Have a lot of respect for that sister. She's giving me nothing but love and respect on her platform. We got Lady Leg 75. And once again, I apologize for the mic issues when I thought my mic was on. We got P Money that's coming to the house. It's been a minute since I've seen you, P Money, but thank you for coming over. We got Queen in the house over here. We got some chick named Star hits here. Mickey Bricks 2.0. And we've got Old Deuce in the house. Tiffany Jackson. Courtney SLP has come over and given of her time. We got This Beach is Better. The sisters in the house. Thank you for being here. Tiffany Jackson as well. Glorion Murray, who's a mod in the chat room as well. Thank you. And also for those people that I have modded up. I turned off the feed on the 3rd channel. Everybody is gravitating over here, obviously. In hindsight, I probably should have went live on this channel with this particular issue in the beginning, and then I added it on later on, but it's okay. We're streaming through, I'm broadcasting through multiple platforms right now, trying to get the information out. So far, do you believe anything that this woman is saying so far? They haven't really, I don't think they've asked her the tough questions yet, but she started trying to get a little emotional there, as she was in the video footage that we all witnessed when they played that video footage where she had her head buried in the sand because she realized that she effed up. So what do you think so far, folks? If you think she's full of you-know-what monarchy, garbage, things of that nature, put a 1 in the chat room. If you don't know what's going on, put a 2. Right? Look. The defense team is trying to pretty it up. They're trying to pretty her up. Let me show you something. This has just come out too. I'm going to get back to her in just one moment. Let me show you something real quick. They're already doing this. There's a video, or there's a picture of him with a gun in his hand. I think one in the car and here. And they're saying that this young lady right here was a victim of Daunte Wright's thug behavior, as they would want to put it. And look, nobody is clean. Nobody has a clean background. I'm sure the young man may have had some issues going on in his life, but it does not change the fact that he should have never been shot with a woman who is supposed to be trained to know the difference between a taser. Let me put this one up here, a taser and a gun. There we go. That's a better picture. Right? This woman should know the difference between the two because she's supposed to be trained to understand the two and how they work and what have you. There is nothing similar between that and a gun. So it's not really about trying to try Daunte Wright for something that took place in his life some time ago. The fact of the matter is that Kim Potter was out of step and out of control. Okay, here's the young lady who is his girlfriend, who also gave some testimony in this particular trial. So just like what they did with all black males, whether it be Trayvon Martin, of course, George Floyd. Look, George Floyd didn't have a pretty background either. But what they do is they try to muck up the waters by bringing up their past when it has really nothing to do with what the police did to someone like George Floyd, and in this case, Daunte Wright. It has nothing to do with it. Are we all perfect? No, nobody's perfect. But it does not change the fact that she's a trained officer who trained other officers, and she couldn't even get it right when it came to grabbing her taser versus her gun. That's really what this is all about. But they want to muck up the waters with all the other nonsense. Let's get back in here right now into the feed. And here we go, folks.
And then at 2:01:55, you can stop right there. You've just transferred the paper back to your left hand, correct?
That's what the video shows.
Okay.
She's getting emotional now.
And then if we could advance a few more frames, please. To 2:01:56. A couple more frames, please. Okay, you'd agree at 2:01:56, the piece of paper is still in your left hand, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's advance. Actually, let's play until 2:02:01, please. Okay, so stopping at 2:02:01. You have the firearm in your right hand, correct? Yes. And you are pointing it directly at Mr. Wright, correct?
Excuse me, Eric, can we have a break? My client is,
Okay. Miss Powder, do you need to take a break? Okay. This motion away. So, okay, members of the jury, we're going to break for lunch, and we'll start up again at 1:30. Okay.
So there it is. She begins to cry. They want to stop everything. What about Daunte Wright? He's not alive. What about his family? He's not alive he's not in the third dimension anymore to live his life. She cries. Trained officer who couldn't utilize her training because she was in charge of training other officers. She's also was in charge of their union. She was a union representative, and she's crying and breaking down just the way she did that day. And now all of a sudden they want to end and go for lunch. But see, this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see her there. She can go out and eat a lunch. Daunte Wright ain't eating any lunch because Daunte Wright is not in the third dimension anymore. That's what's really going on here. You see the hypocrisy? You see the hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and do this because I'm going to wait. I think I need to wait this out until they come back from lunch. So I'm going to keep this stream going. What I'll do is invite people upstairs if they want to come upstairs and talk, give their opinions about what they think they were hearing from her so far. And then as soon as she comes back on, I got to go right back to it. I want to play this I want this whole thing to run its course. Let me take something off the screen here and let this run its course just as it should. And once again, this is Information Man. Let me stop something right here. All right. So I don't have that coming through there. That's muted. So that's not coming through. So right now, let me just let you know, there's a few different configures on my screen here. Earlier today, I went live on my third channel, Your News Shorts. And I wanted to broadcast over there. And then eventually, as things went on, I decided, you know what, let me plug in the first channel. I should have just went with the first channel in the first place. It is what it is. But I'm here live, and that particular channel is now turned off. So folks, definitely come over here and listen in. I was able to catch it live as they brought her up to the stand and began asking her questions. So now, because she's lost her cool, they're giving her a lunch break. But like I said before, I can't help but wonder and ponder the thoughts that Daunte Wright, he can't eat anything because he's not with us here anymore. Once again, as I said before, they are surfacing a photograph of him with a gun in his hand, another photograph with a gun while he's driving in his car. okay, and saying that he used that weapon to harm a female. And I'm going to say this again. Nobody is squeaky clean. People do wrong things. People engage in behavior that you would say isn't the best behavior. That is behavior that we don't want to say that we condone. But whatever happened to him and what he did in the past, as it relates to this case, he did not deserve to be. This case is not about what Daunte Wright did in his past, what his past poor or good trans actions have been. This is a case based on an officer who is a trained police officer who was put and appointed to train other officers in the use of weapons, a member or leader of their union. She had a rookie officer that she's supposed to be supervising and providing proper training to. I think that's where the prosecution was going here, that it appeared like she wasn't providing proper training. And she did not. You're going to sit up there and say taser, taser, taser. And while you're saying taser, 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 because you're trying to let all the officers know you got a taser, so get out the way, you didn't have enough sense in your own training and confidence as an officer. You've been on the force for 26 years, they said, I think 26, 27 years. And you didn't know the difference between your actual issued weapon versus your issued taser. That's what it's really all about. This isn't about Daunte Wright's character. They stopped him over a freshener in a car. And even if it's true or not that he was driving with a suspended license or the stickers on the car were not up to date, it does not change the fact that she pulled out a weapon, not her taser, and she killed the young man. Now, they try to make it look like he ran off in a high-speed chase. The car was moving slowly because he was becoming unconscious. That's what this is about. That is what it has always been about. The negligence and the goofiness of Kim Potter. And all we got right now to listen to, as you heard in the court, is her crocodile tears. I don't think the mother of Daunte Wright, the father, the family, or anyone who is in support of Daunte Wright, I don't think we want to hear crocodile tears. It's a little too late for that. Matter of fact, those crocodile tears don't mean anything. Of course, she's going to cry and get emotional because she wants to look human and hope that the jurors will see this as, we really are feeling her. We're really in touch with this woman. So maybe we shouldn't give her a hard penalty, a hard judgment, a hard sentence. Oh, and keep this in mind. When it comes to a jury of your own peers, this is a joke. She doesn't have Daunte Wright. The jury makeup on that juror makeup is ridiculous. I think once again, there is maybe only one black juror on this jury. What is going on? They can't. You've got black. Look, let me just say this. The Jesse Messy Smollett case, that was the brother that's the only black juror on his case. He spoke out and said that, of course, he felt that Jesse was guilty as sin, ladies and gentlemen. But this is most important. That juror said that he thought that it was a damn shame that he was in a city like Chicago for him to be the only black person on that jury. He said there were tons of other black people, but they did not want to have a lot of black folks on that jury. He said that was, in his opinion, a damn shame. For him to only be the only one picked, he said there's something not right. Just in the same situation with Ahmaud Arbery, one black person on that juror, and now in this situation, you've got about one black person representing on this juror. Something doesn't make sense here. What do you all think in the chat room? Let's see. P Money says, I want to hear she is guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Also, our brother's family should be compensated handsomely. Nothing else should be considered justice for our brother life taken. I agree. This beach is better is in the house. She says they send me home from jury duty because my face says it all before the questions are even asked of you. It's very true. Queen is in the house saying Jesse Smollett will be back in court again soon because he is getting sued. Yeah, and he's also going to appeal his case too, Queen. We got Tiffany Jackson in the house. We've got Miss Stanford coming over. And she says, man, all them black people up there. I've been to to Chicago. My oldest brother lives there. Yeah, that's what he said. I think definitely go on the social media or go on the media and check out. This brother is now speaking. I looked at a video yesterday of him speaking, and he said that it's ridiculous that he was the only black person on that jury in a town that has a large percentage of black people. Makes no sense. There's something going on. Yes, there are black people who don't want to be on juries. I get that. But there are black people that are able to be on juries or willing to be on juries, and they being purged off. There's something going on. There's no doubt in my mind. We've got Chris CC is in the house. Good to see you here. It's been a minute since I've been live. I was supposed to go live later on tonight. I'm probably going to move that stream to Saturday because I want to do something on Sunday. So I might move the stream as it relates. And don't make sure you're here for that. I'm going to be going over this whole debate about are more black men in college versus black men that are in prison. I definitely want to go over that story. I also want to go over a story that was sent to me by Black Anonymous. Thank you for sending me the story. Have any of y'all heard a story about Miss Freeman? You have a story about a sister it was black people who were involved in the presidential election working at the polls. And a particular sister and her family have been targeted by these white nationalist groups like your Proud Boys. Because they've been telling this lie about that election, trying to say that they somehow did something shady with the votes. Come to find out, they were putting the votes in the proper election bags or proper election envelopes or form. They were doing their job. There was no shady business, no tricks being played. They have been targeted. Matter of fact, the rumor has it is that Kanye West, because he kept talking about he was going to run for president. Kanye West election staffers got word to this black family that they've been targeted by these groups. And these are groups that are part of your Donald Trump Code 45 followers. So I don't want to hear all y'all folks on YouTube. Oh, Donald Trump ain't racist. Donald Trump ain't said nothing about it. These minions are running around attacking black folks who they have lied on and said that they were cheating in the election. And I said this in my videos early on when this happened, that they are targeting the states where black people put Joe Biden over the top with votes. We're talking about Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all those areas where black people were at. Those were the votes that they were questioning and saying that black people in these states were messing around and cheating. Come to find out, it's all a lie. All a lie. And now we've got a black family being targeted, a woman being targeted by these Donald Trump goofballs. And by the way, Joe Biden's doing a horrible job. The Democrats are doing a horrible job. They haven't passed anything that has been in the best interest of black folks. The Republicans have done zero either. Either parties have done anything for black folks. Oh, and for you knuckleheads on YouTube that I've debated with before who said, oh, Donald Trump gave money to the colleges. Guess what? Breaking press on that. Here, let's go there. Oh yeah, I got smoke for you. I got smoke for you. Yeah, I got smoke for you. Come to find out, Donald Trump used all those presidents of the HBCU schools as nothing but a photo op. He said he was going to give them all this money. It was all symbolism. You had students at most of these HBCU schools that were begging their presidents not to go see Donald Trump because they knew that he was going to use them as tools and fools. And guess what? Come to find out, as people were saying that he gave them more money than Obama, come to find out the schools haven't seen a dime of that money. All that money that Donald Trump was promising them, they have not seen the money. Matter of fact, most of those presidents of the HBCU schools who got used as tools and fools, they now feel some way about it, and they're not happy with what the past administration under your Donald Klansman did. He used them. These schools did not get any bit of the money that he claimed he was going to give them. Matter of fact, HBCU schools are still struggling. If he gave HBCU schools all this money, why do you have students at Howard University who were sleeping and living in tents? Because the dormitories are in poor condition. The living conditions are very poor in many of our HBCU schools because they don't have the funding that the regular schools have to get the best. Right? And then, of course, unfortunately, you may have black folks running these schools, too, who are not being fiscally responsible with money. That's another damn shame as well. But if Donald Trump did so much for these schools, why do you have these schools still in this poor shape? If he gave them all this money? No, they didn't get all that money. And the presidents of those schools are not very happy with the past Donald Trump administration. And so with that said, that's your breaking news on that one. Using all my sound effects for the third channel. This is not even my setup for this channel, but it is what it is. So that's the deal. I just wanted to bring that up. They're still in recess right now, so nobody that has not come back from recess and lunch yet. So what I want to do is I'll drop a link in the chat room, maybe get people's brief opinions while we wait for this whole thing to start again. I want to catch every bit of the cross-examination of this woman before I end this stream today. So let's go right into the chat room. Let me get a link here. If anybody wants to come upstairs and render their thoughts on this topic, hopefully I can get this in here. I don't know if this is going to let me pop that in there. And there is a link, and we'll see what we can make it do while we wait. If anybody would like to come upstairs and give their opinion, their thoughts about what they've heard from Kim Potter so far in this particular trial. I believe she's guilty. Well, obviously she's guilty. What am I saying? She's obviously guilty, but I want to see what kind of privilege they're going to give her. Okay, she said here, this is Sister Stanford saying that Brother Malcolm said it best. They all Dixiecrats. Yeah, you got the Dixiecrats and you got the well, I like to call them this. You got the Democrats and you got the Republican Klan. And they all screw you one way or the other. Donald Trump can't even pass. I mean, this is crazy. They can't even pass let me bring Back to the Basics up with me. Back to the Basics. How you doing? I can hear you. Are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
All right. What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just glad that I caught you live today, this morning.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to figure out. I got a lot of decisions I got to make with the third channel. I'm trying to figure out my best strategy with that channel. I went live over there to this morning, earlier in the morning, with the third channel. I shut it down for now. But that channel is a experimental channel. I'm trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and go from there. It's an experimental channel right now because I'm trying to do content maybe daily and do more shorter form content on that channel. I don't know how it's going to work out in the long run, but I'm going to see if it's going to work. We'll see. How you doing, by the way?
I'm doing okay. I'm just taking it one day at a time. I'm going to start my vacation next week. So, yes, yesterday was like my last day, and I was
Okay.
thankful.
All right. Well, let me say this to you. You've had a chance to see the testimony cross-examination right now. Of course, she broke down a little bit there, and then they gave her a lunch break. What are your thoughts so far about what you are witnessing in this trial so far in terms of her testimony? And what are your thoughts?
It seems like I didn't see any empathy, and that concerned me. And as far as that crying, it just looked like a performance. Whenever they were cross-examining her, 19 years of experience with a taser, that's almost 2 decades. They don't look the same. You don't even, they're not even held the same. And then when it came out that she didn't even do a functions check, that's important. I know, like with my profession, you got to do a functions check. You got to clear your weapon, and you always have your weapon on safe. It'd be like me not knowing the difference between the 2 weapons that I operate. It just doesn't make sense to me. I just started shaking my head because I haven't been, with what I do, I haven't been doing it for 2 decades. So
Right.
It's like, now if I know the difference, I just don't, I don't understand it. And then she kept saying, I suppose. That just really.
Because she doesn't want to admit her guilt. She's trying to act like things just happened and she didn't know. And I think that the defense team would, if I was a defense lawyer, I want her to cry. I want her to become emotional because I want somebody on that jury, because there ain't that many black folks on that jury. I want the white folks on that jury to sympathize and empathize with her immediately. So you want to humanize her and make her look like she's just this hardworking officer who made this mistake, and come on, give her a break. I've been watching this trial, and there's been a lot of goofy stuff going on in this trial. They're already, as I said earlier, they're trying to already dirty up Daunte Wright with those photographs and what have you. And I said earlier, to me, that has nothing to do with what she did. Now, his personal problems, his personal demons and issues he's got, those are issues that the young brother, well, he's not with us anymore, would have had to work through. But that has nothing to do with what she did based on what his past is. No. They're running that game already. What's going on? We got the Beach is Better with us. What's going on, girl? What's going on, sister?
Good. Hey, check it out. I'm doing my check real quick. Good afternoon, Information Man. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm glad you came over.
Yes. Hello,
this was
Shalonda.
just as
Let
this
me
was
greet the sister also. Shalonda,
Yeah.
it's very great to
How
see
you
you.
doing?
It's been too long, sister. It has been too long. I'm doing good. I am doing
Good.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this was just impromptu stream today. I didn't plan it. I planned it on the other channel, and I said, well, let me load it up on this channel. I thought this was important for people to see this stream, to get their firsthand account of her being asked questions and to see how realistic, how honest she is. I mean,
Right.
what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about her
Well,
body language, her attitude?
Absolutely. I'm picking. Shalonda was taking the words out of my head. Shalonda, get out of my head. That acting. That acting was
Sad.
it was terrible. She will not be getting Academy Awards. Okay, number
Mm-hmm.
one. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, of course, we know the cue to tears. 3, 2, 1, and scene. I mean, what's going on here? And of course, even black melanated people, we blush. But I see the thing about being extremely pale, um, your face and your temperament is going to show. Literally, I've had so many conversations. Oh, I got some
Mm-hmm.
friends, Amy and Allison and Becky and Amanda, all the time, and I can always read them by how red their face is getting in the conversation, and I can tell when I
Mm-hmm.
hit a nerve, or they're triggered, or there's something, whatever, because their face, they just can't hide it. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really noticing, like, wow, did she just go apply some blush somewhere during the questioning, or did she just change change tones? But what she really did, it's in her face, and that color, that's something that cannot be hidden, even with
Mm-hmm.
makeup. It's going to turn red, and you, even if you red ball it back, you'll see light, really pale, get color shade, color shade, color shade. What are you so nervous about? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
this has been years. Your story hasn't changed, allegedly, or whatever. You're saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your face tells it all, which is what I was saying. Some of us can't hide some things. I kind of have one of those faces that is, huh, I got questions. So I'm usually excused when she's not going to go along to get along. She's going to be a problem and ask questions and not just sit here and, I know I'm not. So I'll get excused. But her face and that color change, it really bothered me. And like Shalonda again said, this, I suppose, and also another thing, well, that's what the document says. But ma'am, a document that you sign is a binding contract. Last I checked, unless the rules of the universe have changed, a signed
Mm-hmm.
document is a binding contract. So you signed something you agreed to. Therefore, you will be held just by the contract alone. You're admitting that this is what you agreed to. So you don't get to up and say now, I mean, I don't know, but you signed it. So I'm trying to figure
Right.
out how I'm hoping someone goes back and cross references when you sign a contract, whether it be your job, marital, business, whatever it is, you signed up for that. And if you
Right.
didn't agree with it, that's what the document says. Oh, so do you have a better way? Do you think you should have signed? I want to put a clause in here just in case I'm caught off guard and I'm mistake. See, these are the things that the legality of the situation doesn't change. You signed
Mm-hmm.
off on it. You agreed to this. It doesn't matter how many years ago, unless there have been amendments made, that document stands and is. You broke all type of, not only your protocol, but you also broke a contract that you signed. So I just wanted to throw that out there for the people. Appreciate you so
Right.
much information, man.
Right. Right. Let me let everybody know too. I'm waiting. What happened is Kim Potter, when she was asked some pretty tough questions by the prosecution, the state, she began getting into the crying and the hee. And then the defense team said, "Can we have a lunch?" Of course, they wanted to help her out there a little bit. So they gave them a lunch. I'm waiting for them to come back from the lunch break. And I've got the feed ready to go. Soon as it's live, folks, soon as they come back and I check and I see it in my corner eye here, I'm going to pop it right back on because I think it's important to hear all of her rhetoric that comes out of her mouth today and get it live in effect right here. So I
Do you
appreciate
mind if I ask you a
coming.
question before I
Yes.
jump down?
Yes.
On that, okay, this is live streaming that you're doing from the court, right? Of course. So
Mm-hmm.
we're pretty much in this, even if there's a small delay. Are they East Coast, West Coast? Like, I just want to check the time there real quick.
Let me see. Well, I think it's 1:00. See, I'm in the West Coast, so it's 11:00 here. They took a lunch and said come back at 1:30. So it's 1:30, which is 3 hours
I'm in
difference from where I'm at.
okay.
So
I'm
they're
Central
in.
Standard.
So that's is that Eastern time? They're in.
I'm not, help us out, Chad. I'm not sure. I'll never be knowing the time zones. I'm in Central time zone, so it's 1 p.m. exactly here, 1:01 to be exact.
Okay.
I was curious about that because I thought, well, how convenient for a lunch break at the tough questions during lunchtime. See, I just wonder how they play these things out in court. I definitely looking at, even as on a prosecutor, when it got tough and the
Mm-hmm.
tears. And see, it's not like at 10 o'clock they ask these questions. You see, 10 o'clock wasn't an appropriate time for lunch, nor is 3
Right.
o'clock. Usually between what, the hours of, 11 and 1 are lunch times. Am I right or wrong? I don't know how
Right. I
typically,
think
especially in the courthouse, you can't get anything done. A lot of people don't be at their
right.
desk and that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I
Yeah,
thought it was
people are
mighty
saying it's
odd.
2 o'clock out there where they are.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
so maybe they're coming back. The judge said come back. I think they get like a hour or 30-minute lunch or something of that nature. But the thing
Okay.
is, I've got the feed here. So the minute I see them turn it back on, I'm gonna pop it back on the screen for everybody to see. So that's why I decided to let people come up and talk about it while we wait
Yeah,
for them to
I'm
come
gonna
back.
jump on down. But I do. That's just something in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Cue hard questions, tears. Now let's go break for lunch. The timing tells me a lot on
Mm-hmm.
both standpoints because I don't trust anybody. I just don't. And the
Right.
timing is always, it gives away a lot of people timing. And I just
Right.
thought, interesting. Had it been an hour later with some of them questions, it wouldn't have probably been appropriate for lunch. That's all I
Right.
got to say. Appreciate you so much,
Thank you.
information, man. Bye, Shalonda. I'm going to get back down here in this chat. And
All
greetings to
right now.
everybody. Happy Friday, you guys.
All right. Thank you very much for coming up. Oh, another question I have for everybody in the chat, and help me out here. I threw this together today at getting up in the morning. I took the day off and I wasn't expecting this. And then bam, I just put it together. And I usually like my streams to be not as sloppy as it is today, a little sloppy, but it's okay. I need people in the chat room to let me know, to remind me how many jurors are on this jury, because I think it's only one black person. I think there's 6 Asian. What is? No, that was on the Jesse Smollett case. There were 6 Asians, 1 black person, and everybody else is white. How many people are on the jury in this case with Kim Potter and what she did to Daunte Wright? If anybody can remind us, I just want to make sure I got this right. I believe it's only 1 black person. What is your understanding of this? Back to the basics.
I'm not sure. I can only go off of my experience. I've been called to jury duty 3 times, and twice I was not picked, and 1 time the jury was already formed. But it's probably only 1 person.
Matter of fact, let me see if I can do a quick search here.
I'm going to drop back down into the chat. I just wanted to thank you for always allowing me to speak on your platform. I like the 3rd channel. I like, the news. I stopped watching the news years ago anyways.
Yeah.
But be and stay encouraged.
Yeah, I gotta figure out. I don't want to scrap the channel, but I'm trying to figure out. I think the short content could work, because sometimes people don't have time to be listening to a 3 and 4 hour, 3 and 2 hour stream. Sometimes people are busy in their day, and to be able to look at something where you can get information from our point of view, right, as a people, and get it in a form that's short and to the point, I think it could have value. It could have value. I would have to just keep edit. But then the question is keeping a fine balance between what I'm doing on this channel as well. You got to keep that fine balance. And sometimes, what I do like though, is that there's a lot of stories that I haven't been able to get to, that I'm not always able to get to on my first channel. And I think that channel is a good supplement, because I can get to those stories, but get to it, like I said, just give it to you in a short form without it being like this long, blown out stream. Because I think some people appreciate streams like that too, when you just give them the content quickly because they're on the move. Especially during the week, because on the weekends, people may have a little bit more time to look at your longer content. I don't know. But wait a minute, back to the basics. Before you leave, you have military experience. You've dealt with weapons before. Am I correct or wrong?
You're correct. And I know there's people out there who, depending upon what state you are, they've been dealing with weapons for a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the first thing they teach us, they teach us that, you always treat your weapon as if it's loaded. So that they'll issue you your weapon, and that pretty much, shoot, I gave my weapon a name. So the last time I qualified, I said, nope, I'm gonna go qualify with James. Because you sleep with your weapon. You do just about everything with your weapon whenever you first start out. And the first thing that they teach us is a functions check, and then to clear the weapon, and then to put the weapon on safe. And you always have it at the low ready. We don't even carry the weapon with our finger in the trigger.
Okay,
That,
let me read something to everybody. I just researched something really quick, everybody, and I appreciate it, folks taking the time to come over and listen to this. This is out of NPR. Kim Potter trial in the Daunte Wright death will have a mostly white juror. A mostly white juror were seated Friday for the trial. So that's what's happening today. For the trial, a white suburban Minneapolis police officer who said she drew her handgun by mistake. Check this out. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad I found this. 9 of the 12 jurors seated for Kim Potter trial are white. 9 out of 12. Roughly in line with the demographics of the surrounding counties, but notably less diverse than the jury that convened former Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin this spring. So what we got here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have a jury of 12 people, and out of that 12, you have 9 that are white. So that means only 3 people on this jury, if I'm not mistaken. No, 2 people on this jury, or 3. Yeah, 3 people are actually non-white people. So you got 9, and then the next 3 people are people of an ethnic background. It's funny they don't, and I'm going to tell you right now, I think I'm correct when I say there's probably only one black person. Let me see. It might be true in general that black people are most distrustful of police than white people, but it isn't true, as every individual simplifies. What is this? Lots of young white people in this county are far more progressive and anti-cop than some other black people, for example. So they're trying to say that that white people in this county, the younger white people are more progressive, and they're not for cops, or they're not with cops. And there are black people in this county that are far more conservative, who are not anti-cop. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. This is the NPR article. But the bottom line is, this ain't a jury of Daunte Wright's peers. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. What are your thoughts? Back to the basics.
it's a shame. It just shows you how time is circular. It's almost like, I mean, 9 out of 12, that's 75%. And DOD put in the chat, he said it was like a 9 white, 2 Asian, and 1 black. I said, not really surprised by that.
And this is how they said that. This is what they also say here. I'm not surprised too. They said that the jury roughly matches the demographics of the county, which is 74% white. So you have a county which is 74% white. I guess black folks don't really live in this area. I don't know. And let me ask you this, and everybody in the chat room, is it pretty obvious to say that there's going to be a different sympathy and empathy? I think they're going to have some more empathy for her, because let's be honest, white people in general see police as their friend. They see police as outstanding individuals. And for black people in general, we have always looked at police with a side eye. We have never put them on a pedestal because of some of the unfortunate transactions that we've had with them that have been negative experiences, should I say. Okay. What are your thoughts?
I agree. The last few seconds of that video before they went to break, because she broke down, so to speak, if you can call
Mm-hmm.
it that. But anyways, I mean, he had his hands up,
Yes.
and he was moving away from her. He wasn't moving towards her at all. It just really is a shame. Um, Maybe, whatever she cried for or whatever, it's just like, look, if you did what you did, I mean, at least face that. You shot and killed someone
Mm-hmm.
who had their hands up and they were moving away from you. Um, it's a shame. But just like I was saying about our weapon, like even whenever I'm out there, I don't put my finger in the trigger until I'm on the firing line at the
Right.
range. And that's after whoever is at the tower tells me to do that. They'll say, hey, you can switch your selector from safe to semi. And then you're looking downrange and the targets pop up. Before that, I walk around with my weapon, but I don't have my finger in the trigger in that part. And we're taught that from day one.
From day
So,
one.
and since the police have been militarized since 9/11, they know better. She's 26 years in, she knows better. There's no excuse.
Let me bring up something else to your attention. I was reading an article, and I'm thinking about doing a story on this too. See, this is the thing. We can't sleep and go to sleep on these white nationalist groups. You know what they're doing right now? They are doubling up. They have been targeting school boards. You've got this Proud Boys who are infiltrating these school boards. They're targeting school boards to push their narrative and to intimidate people on school boards. Now they're using this whole issue about, I don't want to wear a mask, we don't want to be vaxxed and all that kind of stuff. That's the area that they're using to plug themselves into these schools. And I've been saying this, and there's been data out there to show that these groups are not going away. They're just simply infiltrating themselves into school boards, colleges, politics, and they have agendas, and their agenda, we not included in it. The agenda is to destroy us. Folks, please be very heightenedly aware of these groups coming into your communities and trying to ingratiate themselves to your school boards and your local. Their whole agenda now is to do what they can to muck up the local government. And you know that all government is local first. So now their agenda is to push forth that narrative that we're going to go into local communities and we're going to take over school boards. We're going to take over local government, push our agendas. Now, of course, the Proud Boys are not going to come into an all black community. They're not going to go to Harlem or something like that because they know they can't do that. But they're going to go to some areas where they can get a foothold. And all it does is start with that.
I definitely agree.
I want people, and I've talked, and that's the reason. And I know a long time ago, I told everybody that I was going to do a broadcast letting you see the symbolism, because what I do at work is we have a lot of gang members, and I've become very aware of tattoos and what they mean, the symbolism, what have you. And I'm going to be doing a live stream so that I want to educate people to be aware of what you're looking at. Matter of fact, Tariq Nasheed on his channel, he did a video last Sunday. He talked about and I've talked about this too, about the LAPD. You got that Torrance Police Department. I did a video on that on the new channel. You've got the Sheriff's Department in Los Angeles County that have been engaging. They have a gang structure within their Sheriff's Department. You have the FBI in 2006 came out with an article saying that these white nationalist, white supremacist groups have infiltrated themselves into law enforcement. Why do you think black people are getting harmed out here in these streets? Law enforcement, military, politics, school boards. check this out. One of the guys, one of the white men, one of these piece of you know what, who is the president of their police union out there in LA. He is one of these members. I'm gonna tell you why. Because Tariq had showed it on his channel. He had pictures of himself with his shirt off, out of a suit. Don't be fooled by their suits when they cover up those tattoos. He's out of his suit. He's got symbols on his body like the shamrock symbol. I'll tell you what that is. He's got AB, which is Aryan Brotherhood. He's got skulls and various things. Now, whenever you see those shamrocks, 4-leaf clovers, that's a symbolism that the Aryan Brotherhood uses. So he's got the shamrocks on his arm. He's got the AR for AB, for Aryan Brotherhood. This guy is a straight member of these type of white nationalist groups, particularly AB, which is really a prison gang. And he is someone who is the president of their union for the police. He was a police himself, or is a police officer himself. And then you're wondering why black people get treated the way they do by the police and why we don't trust the police. And that's why Biden or any president, when they get to talking about, oh, we just need to retrain the police. You can't train that out of these guys. They come into the force bringing their culture into it. You can't train it out of them. There is no training. There is no manual. There is no diverse training. There's no block training. There is no sensitivity training that you can provide that's going to get that culture out. It reaps all over the system. And I said to myself, damn. See, people think we're crazy when we say that police department, LAPD, or the sheriff's department in LA has a gang element in it. Yes, it does.
Yeah, I agree. It's demonic to me. I just don't understand how a group of people can hate somebody else for no reason, just for existence. So I don't even try to understand. I just
Well, I do understand it because Dr. Francis Cressing Welsing, Dr. Francis talked about this. It's about genetic survival, trying to survive. If you are a melanated person, you can reproduce yourself. You can annihilate. Your biology will dominate. And she said it. White society has been concerned about their genetic survival, the survival of their race, as anybody would, and the survival of staying empowered, in control. And when you realize, because there was already reports, and I did a video on this before, you remember, back to the basics, where we talked about the birth rates going down amongst Caucasian people. And so we've always been in a battle over who's going to control, who's going to populate. And then people will say, well, the Proud Boys have a Hispanic guy as their leader. That doesn't mean anything. They always have buffer classes that will reinforce the white supremacy. We have people who come over here from other countries and other ethnic groups who will project the same racism on us as they will, that buy into the same ideology. And some of them will try to pass as white themselves. We're still waiting for Kim Potter, to come back so they can ask her more questions and see if she breaks down again. And now we've got Super Mike 2164 online with us. What's going on, brother?
Peace, family. No, just information, man. Shout out to you. You always bring some good topics and making it happen. I just wanted to ask you, because of your expertise too. You know about a lot of this system internally, but I was thinking about, have you what's that former officer, Black and Blue. She wrote that book called Black and Blue. Shoot. Anyway, I can't remember that woman.
Is she the sister that was in Jason Black's? What was that? Remember, Jason Black had a sister who was a member. She was part of the LAPD for years, and she retired.
Yeah, I think that's the same one, but I can't
And
remember
that was
her name right now.
that was his last documentary that he did, the one called Race War. Remember that?
Mhm.
And she's,
Right.
I think, and she has a YouTube channel, by the way. I would love to get her on my channel and pick her brain about these issues.
Hold on,
And
I
she has a
think
YouTube
was.
channel, and she
think
was in the movie with Jason Black, or that he filmed, and she talked about how the LAPD goes about its business when it comes to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dang, what's that woman's name? But anyway, the thing is, you think they're shaking down? Oh yeah, Sergeant Dorsey. That's her name. Dorsey. Cheryl Dorsey. Yeah. But do you think they're shaking down LA because something internal they're mad about? Because to me, for them to tell people not to come to the city and then they admit that they can't do their job as protecting people,
Mhm.
which I don't think they ever did really. But
Right.
yeah, do you think they're
Right.
shaking them down? Because
Well-
how do they do that, man?
Super Mike, the individual who was telling people, because Tariq had the audio on his channel that was telling people not to come to LA. That was the guy that I'm talking about. He's in charge of he's the head of their union down there in Southern California, police union. And Tariq exposed him with photos, with the tattoos that I talk about, that he is connected with these nationalist groups, right? So he was the one. But see, this is the thing. We got to be able to, and I know you do, we got to be able to read the hidden messages. When he was saying don't come to LA, he's telling white folks not to come there. He's talking to his people. This is what it's really all about. He's putting out those dog whistles to certain people, if you know what I mean,
Right.
not to go there. And because they're saying, well, there's a crime spree going on throughout California with people doing smash and grab has always been going on. Matter of fact, they've caught some of the folks that they claim were involved in this smash and grab. This is what I know. This is what I do know, brother. I'm going to tell you this. And this is what I do know. In prison, there is a revolving cycle, ladies and gentlemen. So for every person that they parole back to the streets, they have to keep the system moving by taking people off the streets that they know are doing dirt and cycle them back into prison. This is how it works. So you get some guys that are on the streets that are gang members, and they'll use them as SIs. They'll use them as spies. They'll say, you know what? We'll put you back in prison. We'll chump you up. You got to do some work for us. So now you've got a group of guys who parole from prison back to the streets. And then as those guys come to the streets, they bust the guys that have been on the streets doing the dirt that they know that they've been doing and cycle them back into prison. And it just goes on and on like a evolving wheel. You know why I know this? Look this up, Super Mike. There was an article that came out in LA Times maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. I did a story about this. And they busted about 200 to 300 or 600 gang members. And the article said the same thing, that some of those gang members that they arrested to cycle them back into prison were being used to spy and to give intel. And that sometimes they know that they know that these members are on the street selling drugs, but they won't arrest them while they're still selling drugs, even though drugs are illegal, because they need them to be their eyes on the street to give intel because they put pressure on them. Then when they're no longer useful, they send them to prison and bust them as the new crop of guys are coming out of prison with those records that they can put pressure on and say, hey, we can send you back because you got a record for this and that. We can plant something on you. And then you put pressure on them to be your new CIs, your new spies, right? Matter of fact, in Oakland, where I lived at, I know this for a fact, Super Mike. There are brothers that have paroled from prison back to Oakland, and they're back in their community. There was a group called there was a group called the Riders in Oakland, California. They were going around putting pressure on black brothers that just got out of prison that were trying to change their life and telling them, you going to do this for us or that for us, or we'll put you back in. They were planting drugs on them for years in the city of Oakland, East Oakland, West Oakland. People were saying there's a group of renegade police that's going around these communities purposely messing with guys that they know have police records. Nobody would listen, Super Mike, and Back to the Basics. And then a couple of years ago, what happened? The story broke wide news, and all these cops were busted and they were brought to trial eventually. But nobody listened to the community prior to that. These guys had ruck reign. There were 7 dirty officers in Oakland, California that were doing this stuff to people.
Oh, I believe it.
That, remember, I think it was in Ferguson. There was a story out in Ferguson a while. I don't think it was Ferguson or St. Louis or something like that. But I guess the police was trying to do the exact same thing you just said. But the guy did not snitch, and he told on them because he was saying, I think, remember, they were killing some of the people who had been protesting because of Ferguson had just ended up dead, right? But this particular guy, he had a record, but I guess the police put some kind of pressure on him, told him to do something. And you remember that story? Because I vaguely remember it, but I
vaguely remember. It's going to come back to me with a little bit of time.
Yeah.
See,
I think that's so systemic. Yep.
Right. But this is the myth, though, Super Mike. Police do not serve and protect you. They don't protect the community. You're not protected by if something breaks out and the police are there, okay, they stop it, they arrest. But when you really think about, do they really protect you as a community? Not necessarily. Matter of fact, it is because of the pressure that they put on guys who have criminal records out there in the streets that they're able to catch the criminals that they really want. So think about it. You have to have a balance. You have to have a system in flux. You have to allow there to be a certain amount of criminal activity to keep the injustice system moving. You have to have the system to continue to pay the judge, the lawyer, and what have you, right? So you have to allow there to be a little bit of crime, or let to be crime, so that you can arrest those people, put them in the system, let the system keep moving, then let them get out of prison and come back and let the same thing happen again. So you have to allow certain amount of crime. And so police, they get a lot of their clues when they let these guys flourish in the streets. They give them all the secrets in the dirt. So that's why people believe, you can call it a conspiracy theory, but that's why you have people that believe that shitty Cousins guy, that he was put out there purposely to take Nipsey Hussle out. That's why people can believe that, because they do use guys like that to do deeds.
But that's not conspiracy. I mean, that's reality. That's happening for real.
I'm just saying that for semantics sake, because people, they're going to say, hey, you're talking about conspiracy, but people, right. But if you go to Los Angeles, you come to California, I can speak for where I live. When you come here and you see how the police operate in California in particular, that's why the community don't trust them whatsoever. I myself worked in a community, I think it was Sunnydale Housing Project area in San Francisco. And I knew for a fact that there were brothers that were gang members. And there was a park right next to this community that was known throughout the community, that's where the police would take guys up to that park and they would plant drugs on them, shake them down, do a shakedown on them. Matter of fact, the reason why I know, because when I was in the community, I was working in we had a boys and girls club program. It's still there. And I was working in a tutorial program in my organization. And while I was leaving the facility, I witnessed it with my own eyeballs.
That's still.
Oh, back to the basics. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. Where is Super Mike? Let's see what people are saying in the chat room. let's see, the real Aaron Collins. Oh, Aaron is in the house here. We've got Be the Difference Clothing. We got, let me see, S. Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm waiting for this lunch break to stop so we can hear the rest of Kim Potter and see how she sort of BS's around. Oh, here he comes. He's coming right back. Super Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So these things go on.
Yeah, you said the Boys and Girls Club, because now you remember now people want to start up the defund the police talk again, which I personally agree. Now I know there's a lot of people who disagree, but I was looking at it where I think it just needs to be put on track, and at the same while simultaneously creating a more community-based, meaning community responsible system, and eliminating those police unions, because I think those police unions are actually criminals.
Well, you have, what's the one prominent police union? The one out of New York.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah.
What are they called? I can't. I'm lost for thought. Fraternal Order of Police. Yeah, they're one of the biggest ones that always come out and got a lot to say when something goes down. Right there. So yeah, but
I think they're really because I think you said, like you said, Tariq exposed the one down there in LA.
Right.
Wasn't that the police union guy? Yeah.
Right. He was in head of their police union, and that dude is gained. He's definitely Aryan Brotherhood. He had the tattoos, all the symbolisms, all the talk, all the rhetoric. And see, this is what people need to understand. That's what they've done. They've infiltrated themselves into wearing suits, ties. They're the off-right. They're the ones that come on your talk shows and talk all this stuff about, it's about treating everyone this way. And they'll act like they're for everyone being treated fairly, but really it's all about keeping their race, their group in control.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was telling back to the basics. It gets down to what Dr. Francis was talking about. It's about genetic survival. It's about control and power and maintaining that power and control. And that's why when you look at a lot of these white folks who are Trump supporters, for example, he resonated with them because they think that their country's being taken away from them because they're seeing that the country's becoming more brown, more black. They're seeing other ethnic groups come into the country, and they're saying, wait a minute. What the hell is this about?
You remember what Biden said? I know did you do a show on that when he was talking to those civil rights leaders? Supposed to be a secret meeting talking about.
Oh yeah. I mean what I said.
Right.
What he say?
Right.
Y'all gonna have to start working with Latinos. Y'all gonna have to start working with Latinos.
Look, Super Mike, I'm completely through. They're getting ready to come back into court too. I'm completely through with Joe Biden, his administration. And let me say this to black women when it comes to Kamala Harris. He put her on the ticket to galvanize the black vote and definitely galvanize black women. Black women, in the next 3 years, Kamala Harris needs to do something that specifically benefits you, because it was 93% of black women who voted for Joe Biden, around 86% of black men. We deserve something too. But because black women rallied around Kamala Harris within the next few years of her being in this administration, you better have something to show for her being your vice president, meaning black women in particular better get something out of this woman tangibly. Because other than that, all we doing is investing in symbolism. And I'm sick of symbolism. And they use it because they know black people love symbolism. So I'm just simply saying, for black women particularly, Kamala Harris needs to push some type of proposal that benefits you, because you all was rallying around her to be a part of his administration. It's just that
I
simple.
agree. I agree. Let's see. We're
All right.
hoping too. I know they're coming back in. That's why I was going to jump up here, not to be petty, and ask what type of lunch break were they on? Was it catered lunch or four seasons?
Yeah.
Because we're running
Right.
into an hour now.
Well, check this out.
Thank
Check
you,
this out.
information, man,
They're
for that.
back on right now, so I'm about to pop it back up here. Right now.
I'm a fall back. All right, peace, guys.
All right, peace. Thank you
Peace
for
to
coming up.
you. I'm gonna drop down to. I'll keep you in prayer because of the plantation, y'all know, because that's a mess. I couldn't imagine going, but you understand.
Yeah,
Peace
I
and
get
blessings.
you. Okay, thank you. Let's see what happens, folks. We're back live again. Ken Potter, she started crying, breaking down a little bit, and they gave her a lunch break, gave her some sympathy and
Please be
empathy.
seated.
And here we go.
All right, counsel, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Potter, before we left for the break, we were walking through what happened on April 11th. You'd agree that for a large part of the interaction at the side of the car with Mr. Wright, you were standing behind Officer Lucky, right?
I was next to him at some point.
Okay. And you testified on direct that after you saw a scared look in Sergeant Johnson's face, that's why you decided to use the taser? That was your testimony?
Yes.
But you also told Dr. Miller that...
And peace to
you
House
don't
of
know why
Entertainment
you decided to
Incorporated.
use the taser, right?
I haven't seen his report.
Would it refresh your recollection to see his report?
Yes, please.
May I approach Your Honor?
You may.
Did you have a chance to look at that, Ms. Potter?
Yes.
And did you see the portion where it explains, when asked by this examiner why she decided to draw her taser, Officer Potter states, "I don't have an answer. My brain said grab the taser." You recall that?
I don't recall it, but it's in his paperwork.
So, on April 11th, you reached down and drew your weapon, right?
Yes.
And you said taser, 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 so Officer Lucky and Sergeant Johnson would disengage, right?
Yes.
And they did disengage, didn't they? They let go of Daunte Wright and stepped back?
According to the video.
And after you shot Daunte Wright, you said, "Shit, I just shot him. I grabbed the wrong fucking gun and I shot him. I'm going to go to prison and I killed a boy." You said all those things, right?
I don't remember.
If that's what's in the video, that's what you said, right?
Yes.
And you said that there are a lot of things that you don't remember. And that
What's up,
on direct you
everybody?
testified that
I'm
your memory
live
came
right
back when
now.
you saw
Ken
your
Potter,
husband that
who
day.
shot
But didn't you
Daunte
tell
Wright,
Dr. Miller that you remember
claiming
seeing
that
the
she
gun
thought she
in your
was
right
going
hand?
for her taser, but shot him with a gun, is on trial giving
Said that, right?
this cross-examination. She's on the stand right now speaking, and I'm
I don't
live on
remember
my
my
YouTube
interview with
channel,
him.
The
I was
Information
distraught.
Man Show. Come
Was
on
in a
over
good
and
place.
watch. It's live right now.
After you shot Daunte Wright, you didn't behave like someone who had just saved Sergeant Johnson's life, did you?
I was very distraught. I just shot somebody. I've never done that.
Well, you never asked Sergeant Johnson if he was okay, right?
I don't remember the conversations.
You didn't check in on him at all, right?
I don't know.
Well, you saw the video. When Sergeant Johnson fed you the line, "That guy was trying to take off with me," you didn't bite, right? You didn't respond to that at all, did you?
The video, I was crying. I was in shock.
And he was trying to make you feel better, wasn't he?
I,
Back to that foundation.
The objection is sustained.
Well, he didn't remember saying it, right? You heard that testimony?
yes.
And you don't remember him saying that, right?
No.
And you didn't say anything like, "Thank God I shot that guy and saved your life." You didn't say anything like that, right?
Back to that argument.
The objection is overruled.
You didn't say that, right?
No.
And you didn't ask Sergeant Johnson anything except to call Chuck, right?
I don't remember what I asked him.
That would be on the video, right?
Yes.
You'd agree that as a police officer, you have the duty to render aid and communicate information to other officers, right?
Yes.
And it's part of your job to assist those who are hurt or injured, true?
Yes.
And to communicate to other officers what you know about a particular scene, right?
Yes.
Give them whatever information you can to help them do their jobs, to help render assistance, things like that, right?
Yes.
But you didn't do any of those things on April 11th, did you?
No.
You stopped doing your job completely. You didn't communicate what happened over the radio, right?
No.
You didn't make sure any officers knew what you had just done, right?
No.
You didn't run down the street and try to save Daunte Wright's life, did you?
No.
You didn't check on the other car that had been hit, did you?
No.
That all happened just down the road from you.
Yes.
You were focused on what you had done, because you had just killed somebody.
I'm
Right?
sorry it happened. I'm so sorry.
Ms. Potter, from your reaction today, and from your reaction on your video, you didn't plan to use deadly force that day, did you?
No.
You didn't want to use deadly force, did you?
That's irrelevant. If you planned it or wanted it, it's a constructive fact.
The objection is overruled.
You didn't.
No. No.
Because you knew that deadly force was unreasonable and unwarranted in those circumstances.
I didn't want to hurt anybody.
You didn't want to hurt anybody. And you didn't want to kill anybody.
No.
And that's why you said, "I'm going to go to prison."
I don't.
That's 3 times now, Aaron. Repetition.
All right. The objection is sustained.
Ms. Potter, you know the difference between left and right, don't you?
That's objective now. She's asked that before, it's argumentative.
It has not been asked, Your
The
Honor.
objection is sustained. It's argumentative.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Potter, do you need a break?
No.
Okay.
just going to ask you a few questions. Do you remember your visit by Zoom with Dr. Miller? A little bit at least.
We had a Zoom interview, yes.
Okay, and that was Miller in Florida, correct, as far as we know?
Yes.
And you and me were in my office, correct?
Yes.
And that was the first time that you had ever seen any of the video, correct?
Yes.
And were you able to watch it?
No.
And you did tell Mr. Miller that when Wright pulled away and got back into the driver's seat of the car, which was still running, Potter, that you could observe Johnson and Lucky struggling over the console, and it appeared that Johnson was trying to prevent Wright from putting the car in drive.
Objection leading.
The objection is overruled.
If you don't remember that, because it was a while ago, I can show it to you to refresh your memory.
I don't remember.
May I approach, Your Honor? Read to yourself, Ms. Potter, the last sentence of the second to the last paragraph. Does that refresh your memory as to what you told him?
Yes.
And did you tell him that? Pardon me, I didn't hear you.
If it's in there, I must have. That day is so blurry.
Did you also tell them that you yelled taser, 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 so your partners would disengage from Wright?
Yes.
And just a few more questions here. Would it be routine, thinking back when you're a law enforcement officer for 26 years, would it be routine for you to unsnap your holster on the way to a car?
No.
And why not?
I'm only 5'3". If I would get into a fight, I could lose my gun.
Did you ever, in your career, shoot your gun at anybody?
No.
Did you ever shoot your gun in real life during your career?
No.
And did you ever shoot your taser during your career?
It was never deployed.
Is that what it means?
Yes.
And that would be real life. That would be, when you have to use those weapons, that would mean it was an emergency situation, would it not?
Objection leading.
Well, what would it mean to you?
Objection is sustained.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Judge. What would that mean to you if you had to shoot your weapon?
That I might kill somebody.
When you three law enforcement officers, and excuse me, by the way, as far as reporting this shooting, would it be Sergeant Johnson, your boss, would be the one that would be required to do that?
Objection leading.
Well,
Well,
rephrase
rephrase
it.
that. Who would be required, according to policy, to report the shooting? Would it be the shooter or the other person who was in charge there?
On that scene, it would have been Sergeant Johnson.
Because he was your supervisor, correct?
Yes.
Then I got a couple more questions. If you stopped a vehicle in Brooklyn Center and you learned that there was a bench warrant for a weapons violation, you learned that there was a temporary restraining order a female had lodged against the person that said he was in the car, that gave his identity, but he really, did Mr. Wright ever give a valid identification for himself?
No,
And the other office, now, you've got no valid information, you've got a gross misdemeanor, you got a temporary restraining order, you got marijuana smelled by your partner, you got no license, no insurance. Would you let that car go if you went up to it and were attempting to handcuff the individual and the car, he jumped back in? Would you have thought you should let him go, drive down the street?
no,
On the temporary restraining order, if you learn there is a temporary restraining order, is it protocol? Is it policy to, as soon as you learn that, jump out of the passenger side, run up to the car and ask the lady what her name was? Has that ever been heard of in police practice that you know of?
no.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all I have, Judge.
Is there any recross?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Potter, you were asked about some statements that you made to Dr. Miller on redirect, right?
Yes,
You also told Dr. Miller that you resigned on April 12th to protect your police family, right?
Judge, I object to this is improper. Cross-examination, I never got into that. I just got
Okay,
into one statement.
Your Honor, the statements to Dr.
Yes.
Miller are at issue.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You may answer that.
You told him that, right?
can you repeat the question?
You told Dr. Miller that you resigned on April 12th to protect your police family, right?
If it's in the report, yes. I haven't seen the report except today.
Well, if it's in the report that you also said that they're very important people to you, would that be accurate?
Yes,
You have a very close relationship with the police officers, other individuals you work with or used to work with at Brooklyn Center, right?
some of them.
Sergeant Johnson is a good friend of yours.
Judge, I object to this is outside the scope.
The objection is sustained beyond the scope.
You also told Dr. Miller that you don't make mistakes, right? You told him that?
If it's in the report, yes.
And you told him that you don't want to hurt or injure anybody. Right?
Right?
But you mentioned to Dr. Miller your relationship with the individuals that you work with, right?
Yes,
And that was very important to you, right?
yes,
You advocated for their interests in a lot of settings, didn't you, for the people that you worked with?
I advocate for everybody.
You had a very close relationship with them. You referred to Sergeant Johnson as a rock star, haven't you?
I don't know when I would have done that.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
In all of your years there as experience, in all of the patrols that you conducted, did you have to rely on your partners for assistance anytime you did a stop or an investigation of any nature?
Yes,
And that would be the family of the police department at Brooklyn Center, correct?
yes,
And they were your second family, weren't they?
yes,
as far as complaints, in the 26 years that you were a police officer, did you ever have one citizen complaint?
Objection, Your Honor, as to the scope.
The objection is sustained beyond the scope.
I have no further questions.
Any further cross?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
Does the state have rebuttal?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Does the state have any rebuttal witnesses the defense has rested?
We do not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Members of the jury, all the testimony is in. So what's going to happen is that on Monday morning, I'm going to give you the instructions of law you need to apply in rendering your verdict, and then the attorneys will have a chance to do their final arguments to you. Now, so we're starting on Monday. I've got to read the cautionary long version again so that you don't do any research. Don't let outsiders influence you. This includes family members and friends and anyone else who is not actually involved in this trial. Don't discuss the case with other jury members during the trial. Again, you'll have plenty of time to do this at the end of the trial. Once you have had all the evidence, I've sent you to the jury room with my instructions and the verdict forms. Don't talk to anyone involved in the case, of course, the defendant, the lawyers, or the witnesses. If anyone tries to discuss this case with you outside the courtroom, please report this to me. When you go home over the weekend, do not talk to your family, friends, or others about the case. You may tell them that you are a juror on a criminal case, and that is all that you should tell them. Do not report your experiences as a juror while the trial and deliberations are going on. Do not email, blog, tweet, text, or post anything to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, YouTube, or other social networking sites about this trial, even if I have not specifically mentioned other social media sites. Don't visit any chat rooms where this case may be discussed. Do not read or listen to news reports on newspapers, magazine, radio, television, podcasts, or other media about this case. Don't do your own investigation. Do not ask people about the case. Do not visit any of the locations mentioned in the trial. Do not use internet map applications such as MapQuest or Google Earth or similar mapping media to view the locations. Do not research anything about the case, including the issues, evidence, parties, witnesses, location, or the law through any form of written, print, electronic, or internet media, including Google, Safari, Firefox, Bing, or other similar search engine. Do not create your own demonstrations or reenactments of the events which are the subject of the case. Remember, you can't consider anything you hear or learn about this case outside this courtroom. If you don't follow these instructions, again, you may jeopardize the trial and we might have to start all over again. If you become aware that another juror may have violated any of these rules, you need to let me know that. Okay? So, members of the jury, first of all, I want to thank you for your attention during this trial. I want you to have a good weekend, and we'll reconvene on Monday at 9 o'clock. right, please be seated. Okay, counsel. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, you should have received another draft of the jury instructions by email. I had Zach do this or Mr. Kramer do this in 14 points, so us older folks can read it, okay? So have you had a chance to review the new draft? Okay, I'd like to have a discussion about jury instructions this afternoon. Why don't we take a half an hour break? And Mr. Frank, if you could send me your suggested language on the non-deadly force. I've got one in here, a clarifying provision in it, but I'd like to see yours. So a half an hour should be enough? Okay. Okay, we'll reconvene at 2:30. Yes, you may be excused. I mean, she's coming back for jury instruction argument, right? Okay. So, 2:30.
Okay, everybody, can you all hear me? I hope everybody can hear me. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get ready to end the stream. I think we've gotten all that we need to get out of it. Of course, she had another breakdown. Looks like they're going to get ready to give the jury instructions on Monday. And it looks like the jury are going to be in deliberation to find out whether we're going to get a guilty on this whole situation with Kim Potter. And hopefully what I'll do on Monday, if possible, I may broadcast. If they happen to come back, I think they're going to probably come back on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever, however long it's going to take them to come to their verdict. We're going to see how this whole thing plays itself out. But I'm glad that I was able to live stream this. I got it going through multiple places today, but I think it was very important. I want to thank everybody that came upstairs, Super Mike, Back to the Basics, the beach. This is the beach. This is the beach out there, who came up and supported the channel. I appreciate her. I see we got Misunderstood is in the chat room. Peace to you. Peace to everybody. Let me give everybody some greetings. I really thank you for coming over and being a part of the program today. This is my look for my third channel, the information, the Your News Shorts. Originally, I went live on Your News Shorts. Everybody, make sure you check out my third channel. All you gotta do is scroll down on this page. You'll see the little logo with the kid smiling. Click into that. Hit the bell notification. Check out Your News Shorts. The goal over there is just to give you content within a short period of time. So it could be a 10-minute stream, a 12-minute stream, a 15-minute stream, whatever. If there's like a big story that breaks out, then I'll go live on that channel for stories that sometimes I don't get to on this channel. The bigger stories that call for more of a critical analysis, those are the stories that I'll still be going live on this channel on Sundays, like I've been doing on the weekends, and giving you more long form content with a more bigger, more in-depth critical analysis. I was scheduled to do a stream later on this evening as it relates to the issue of whether there's more black men in college than in prison. I'm going to see how the day goes. I may move that stream to Saturday or Sunday. I may have to move that up because I just went live right now with this, but I may come back later on with something. Just got to figure out how the day goes for me. If there is another breaking news story or something that happens unusual, I'll go live on the Your News Short channel. So make sure you subscribe to that and give just a quick little short update on whatever. If there's something that's breaking news today, that's just has to be, I have to go live for. Be on the lookout for that on the third channel. Other than that, I thank everybody for coming over and listening. I want to thank everybody who participated in our chat up here on the panel. And thank you for the super chat, my brother. I appreciate that. By Real Aaron Collins.
Thank you for the super chat.
Real Aaron Collins says, salute information, man. Hey, I appreciate you putting that up there and giving me the super chat, brother. I really appreciate that. It's much respect to you, Real Aaron Collins. Thank you, brother, for that again.
Thank you for the super chat.
So we've got Brother Keith in the house. Thank you for coming on over, brother. We got Misunderstood. Miss saying your news channels like that. Your news channel like that. Yeah, that news channel, which is your news short. So if you ever see that, see me in a chat room with that, that's me. It's a shorter content. So I may go live. I went live. I've been going live over there every night. And the longest stream I have on there is probably 30 minutes. Everything is 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, what have you. That's what I'll be doing on that channel. The difference is that when I do those shorter form content, it's because I'm going to go live on that channel as much as I can, if not every day, to give you some type of story. Go check out my story that I did on Sister Claudette Corvin, who before Rosa Parks, she was the one who actually refused to give up her seat in 1955, 9 months before Rosa Parks. Check out that story. That was a big story yesterday, all over media. And check that video out. I think I did a decent job with that video, decent breakdown. So what I do over there, this scene that you see right here, is I do more of a news type of style. So you've got the news overlay here. You got that right there. I'm using this microphone. So this is not the look, as you already know, graphically, of what I do on the Information Man show. I have a different graphical look with that show. It just so happened that I went on with the Your News Shorts channel first, and then I plugged in the first channel because I just thought, like, man, more people need to see this and be aware of what's happening right now with this case. So I thank you again. Let me put some respect on some names here. Let me say this beach is better. Let me put some respect on that sister's name and a clap. Thank you for coming over again. We got Sister Stanford who came over and has been showing me love in the chat room. Thank you. Check out DOD. DOD has a channel called Only Black News. I believe Only Black News, if I'm not mistaken. DOD, you can drop your link if you want to in the chat room for people to check out your channel. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with anybody who has a mod, or if you're modded up, you can do that. I don't care. We gotta support each other. We gotta help each other. We gotta help each other's channels. This ain't about being selfish. So if you got a channel and you're modded up, definitely drop it. If you're not a mod and I know you got a channel, I'll shout you out. I have no problem with that. Oh, just so you know, folks, I got some good things coming on the horizon. I'm gonna be this channel or this show, the Information Man Show. I'm gonna be on your local cable, your Roku. I'm gonna be on Roku very soon. So if you got that kind of cable, if you got that cable system, if you got that system that you attach to your television, the Roku or whatever they call it, and you can watch me live on Roku now. I'll be able to upload videos over there, and I'll be able to stream live into that platform, as well as YouTube, and doing everything that I'm doing. I'll be able to plug into that platform. And that's a good thing because that will put more eyeballs, hopefully, on the channel. So I just connected with a brother, a good brother of mine, Ben. If you're out there, he has a sports channel, and he does YouTube, but he does podcasting. He has a sports channel, and he connected with me and said, "Man, let's get you on the lineup with us on that platform." So I'm looking very forward. He's emailing me over the contracts. I've got to look over the contracts and all that good stuff, and the agreements and all that I have to, because you gotta give a commitment when you connect to that platform, at least a year commitment if you don't like the way things are going, and you can come out of that contract. So I'm going to look over that, talk to him some more, but you'll be able to see the program broadcast into that platform as well. And I know people right off your fire sticks or whatever the hell you call them. So I'm very happy that I'll be branching the program out to more further areas that will put more eyeballs on. And that's what it's about. You want to get your product, what you're doing, your streams, you want to get them to more people so that people can see what you're talking about, what you're doing, and see if it's some value for people, if they see you as having value to their daily life, to their daily week, and to the information that you're providing. I'm looking forward to interviews. I've got some brothers and sisters that I'm looking forward to bringing on the platform and interviewing. Things coming down the pipeline that I'm looking forward to presenting to you. I have, this is what I want to do, because I do have that stream about black men as it relates to college or prison. I want to do that stream either Saturday. I got to figure this out because I have to do a stream about the late James Brown. I've got to do a stream. I think I may have to make that stream a priority because there's something that I'm not very happy about as it relates to James Brown's estate and what is happening. And not only with James Brown, but how it's also happening to other recording artists and their music and who controls it versus who doesn't control it. And I want to, matter of fact, I think I need to fire that stream up for Sunday because I have a lot to say. And I have a lot to get off my chest, and I have a lot to show you to get your opinions and your thoughts about this. And it's definitely going to be one for a panel. I definitely have to have, so people who want to come up on this panel, prepare yourself for Sunday, because after I present to you this situation that I'm not happy about, James Brown always said, I feel good. Well, my thumbnail, a piece of my thumbnail photo is going to say, I don't feel good, with his picture. Because if he was alive, I know he wouldn't feel good if he knew how his music and who's controlling it. So we're going to get into that Sunday. I think I'm going to go with that stream Sunday, and then possibly go with the other stream on Saturday, or maybe move that up to Monday. I'll figure it out. Either way, I'm going to do that stream. I have another stream that I have to do, which is the one I talked about earlier about a lady by the name of Miss Freeman. You've got Trump supporters that have been threatening a black family who were involved in counting the votes, saying that they were cheating when they weren't, and they've been getting death threats. I'm going to go over that story because Black Anonymous is the one that sent me that story. So I've got a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch of streams that I got to do this whole week. So I got to go live on Sunday, possibly maybe Saturday, maybe Monday, maybe Wednesday night. I've got to go live on the first channel. I've got some content to lay down on this channel very soon. So be on the lookout for that. The James Brown one, I think, is going to catch you by surprise. You'll find very interesting. And hopefully we can have the discussion, because it's not just James Brown, but it's other black musical artists who have had their music. Man, I tell you. So we're going to talk about that, hopefully. Did James Brown have children, or any of did any of his inheritance to his estate? Did any of his kids, you're saying? Let me say this, real Aaron Collins. I'm going to hold up on that, man. Let's save that for Sunday stream. Hell, I might even surprise y'all and do this stream on Saturday. But Sunday is a good day because I get more people who come over here on Sunday, and then I can really promote the video ahead of time, because this video today was just a surprise video. But let's get into that on this weekend. Let's get into that discussion this weekend, because you ask a very good question, and I got a lot to say about what's going on. Okay, we've got my man, Sheldon, who's just super chatted me as well. Thank you for the super chat, brother.
Thank you.
Clap to you. I appreciate that. Thank you for that super chat. We got Lil Rock 2517. Thank you for coming over. Good to see you. We got Chris CC. Chris CC, what's going on? Hey, if you happen to talk to Brother Pascal, I send him a message on IG because I want to get him on the show, and I haven't heard from him yet. I know he's busy. He's got a big show over there. He's very busy. Brother's got a lot on his plate. He's got a show in Florida. I think he has his own show out there in Florida or something like that. So I'm going to try to reach out to him again. But if you happen to have any way to communicate with him, I definitely want to get him on the show, and I'm waiting to hear back from him, hopefully. So Chris CC, thank you for being here today. Brother Keith. Oh, wait a minute. Let me not be disrespectful. We've got Sister Natural in the house. Thank you for being here, and check her out. She has a channel, and I think she promotes female beauty products, the eyelashes, the hair, the makeup, the whole 9 yard, all the things that the ladies like. Let's say shout out to Peggy Roster, James Brown on Netflix with Chad Boseman, outstanding. Yeah, that's a good, you know what, Peggy, that's a very good recommendation. Check out, if you have not, check out Chad Boseman's rendition of James Brown. I thought it was really I thought it was pretty good, personally. Check that out. I thought it was excellent as well. Still wish that brother was still here in the third dimension with us. So check out that, and be on the lookout for my James Brown stream. And it ain't, and the stream ain't going to be about, as James Brown would say, I feel good. No, I feel bad, because when you hear what I'm going to talk about and what I'm going to present to you, it's going to really make you say, we got to do better. We have to control our intellectual properties, folks. Most definitely. All right. Let me see who else we got in here. We got Misunderstood is in the house. Yeah, may he rest in pieces for sure. So we got everybody in the house. Let me get out of here. I know it's lunchtime and work day for a lot of people. We got Bonnie Rose is in the house. And we've got Sister Taylor is in the house. Thank you for being here. Back to the basics. And all right, folks, I'm out of here. I appreciate you all again. And there we go. Peace. Thank you all for coming over. I look forward to streaming again, and I'll be back in my regular setup for this channel the next time I go live, everybody. Peace.